What's going on, babe?
Hey babe, how was your day?
It was actually pretty productive. Happy to be home.
Good. You know we got a game today. Honey, a little rough around the edges.
I'm saying I've been working all night, taking care of business, getting to the. You know what? I don't even want to talk about it. I got you. I'm not trying to be out here looking like a dusty, and that's why I'm excited to have T. Chanley as a sponsor of today's video. They help me start and maintain my skincare routine by making the entire process uncomplicated. Honestly, it's the best skincare system for guys like you and me. I recommend you start with their level 1 system, which come with all of the basics. A daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin, a 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of the dead skin cells, an AM moisturizer with SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun, and a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. My favorite part about T. Chanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. In addition to amazing skin, members of T. Chanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price and the ability to customize your box. And because T. Chanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers an amazing deal. Just click the first link in the description. You'll get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. Click the link and get started today. We're taking care of ourselves. Self-care, fellas, is the first step to be able to get to that bag, to take care of business, and be on top of things and level up in every aspect of your life. Feel the Teej, my friends. What's going on? Is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. This will be an interesting show today, and let me tell you why. I think that it's necessary for us to have some uncomfortable conversations, and the inspiration from this show came from time spent on YouTube recently that has inspired me to address some uncomfortable truths. Now, contrary to what you may think and what I may think, there is no your truth, my truth. There's only the truth, right? And the one thing that's very unique about the different platforms that I host is that I have people from all walks of life jumping on my platforms, jumping on my panels, jumping on my late night live stream, jumping on my journals that want to give me some insight or share their life experience or share their thoughts on what they think should happen, could happen, what would happen, what would have been. And I think that we spend too much time living in a space of woulda, coulda, shoulda instead of living in reality. So I think it's time for me to have this uncomfortable conversation because the one thing that I made up in my mind that was going to happen in 2022 and going forward was that we were going to navigate through some conversations that is generally off limits, right? When you want to get to a certain space, when you have certain corporate positions, when you have certain businesses, people tend to shy away from certain things. Now, when you are in other certain positions or you don't have anything to lose or all of that other type of stuff, everything is on limits until you start to get to the bag. And then that's when people start to be a little bit more mindful of what it is that they're saying, right? But I don't care. I've never been one to censor myself. The whole point of this channel was for me to say what I want to say when I want to say it, to have people say what they want to say when they want to say it. And so we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations. Now, if you know me, if you are a bag chaser, and we are about to do the housekeeping in a minute, but if you know me and you're a bag chaser, you know that I don't care anything about color. Not when it comes to whether or not I'm going to rock with somebody. I rock with people, and the number one way in which I'm able to determine that is evaluating the content of their character. I'm not one of the type of people that's ever going to rock with people based off of the color of their skin. I don't decide whether I'm going to rock with a person based off of their gender. I don't decide whether or not I'm going to rock with somebody whether they're tall or short or old or young. Literally everybody and everyone is welcome to have conversations with me. Now, that may be a little bit different than what you see on some other platform or from some other people. That's cool. That's why they have their platform. I don't believe in censorship largely based off of a couple of different things. A, as long as you remain respectful and you can, in a general sense, substantiate your argument, you're more than welcome on my platforms. B, we generally keep women, wives, husbands, and children off the table. All right? Those are generally the rules of Fight Club on late night live streams on my other channel. Y'all more than welcome to subscribe to that. Now, I do let some stuff toe the line often. I've told the line myself pretty often, but I'm trying to have that balance between how do we reach people? How do we impact people? How do we make sure that we're not in an echo chamber? So I want to hear different opinions that's not necessarily aligned with what I am, because that's where growth comes from, right? I'm not looking to be happy. Happiness is a state of mind. You can be happy in any space that you in. But the thing that I'm always looking for is growth. So I'm cool with people that may agree with me, may disagree with me, may have different opinions. This is not necessarily a debate. This is a sharing of ideas and experiences and insight and information so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. And that's the whole idea of the bag chasers. Bag chasers, people that are a part of my Patreon, people that I consider family, are people that are looking to become the best versions of themselves on a daily basis, understanding that the money comes along with it. The spouse comes along with it. The great life, all of the travel and the awesomeness, all of the stuff comes along with it. If you bag chasing, then you're not necessarily concerned about money, but you understand that the decisions that you're going to make long term yields the best results. That's what a bag chaser is. And so that's what I lean on. I have people that's a part of my tribe that's white, Asian, black, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever, all of the colors of the globe, and y'all know this. Y'all have seen them. The people that are a part of my tribe and my bag chasers, y'all know this. They are women, men, heterosexual, homosexual. They span the entire, gamut of all the different things that we may consider ourselves or the different choices that we make. And the thing that I lean heavily on is that my beliefs may not necessarily be your beliefs, but I'm open to the possibility that I'm wrong, A. And B, I'm always looking to grow. C, I rock with people based off of the content of their character. So as long as you're not doing nothing egregious and you're looking to continue to grow every single day, that's the parameters. That's the parameters. But what I regularly see on my platforms, and it does not matter what the subject is, we can be talking about relationships, we can be talking about sex, we can be talking about money, we can be talking about literally anything, travel, minimalism, watches, cars. You know where I see the conversation regularly go to? Racism. That's where it goes. Last night, specifically, I had a conversation about whether men or women actually deserve the thing that they think that they deserve in their mind. Whether we're worthy of the spouse that we're requiring or the woman or the man that's coming into our life. That was the conversation. You know where it spiraled into? That's where it went. Literally, that's where it went. And then I got us back on track and I grabbed us out of that space. And you know where it went? Right back to that. Somehow, some way, we find ourselves always separating ourselves based off of things that we cannot control. Every day. Every single day. We even divest ourselves from potential audiences and audience members. And I cannot tell you how many people have booked coaching calls, how many emails that I get on a regular basis, people that send me messages on a Patreon. They say on a regular basis, Anton, I rock with you, I love you, but I will never, ever, ever show my face or say anything on these platforms. You know why? Because people, not you, but most people, are not open to hearing a different perspective, which tells me personally that you don't care about growth. The only thing you care about is being heard. The only thing you care about is substantiating your argument. The only thing you care about is what you think and trying to make sure that everybody else see and agree with you. That's not growth. That's not growth. I'd like to continue to create a space where people can make mistakes and come back from it, which is what forgiveness is. The majority of the way that I live my life is based off of Christian principles. I don't separate myself from people. I embrace them. It's one of the reasons why I've been uber successful in every aspect of my life, in networking and building relationships and making money, corporate America, business. Everything has come to me embracing and being open to understand, not necessarily trying to get my point across. I don't listen to respond. I listen to understand. And everything you do, get understanding. It's literally scripture. But we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations today. So before we do, let me give a shout out to the sponsor, Teej Henley. Make sure y'all get that Teej pack, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. That link is in the description. Make sure you rock out. In addition to that, shout out to the Bag Chasers. I appreciate you. Bag Chasers, we getting it. We have a live stream this weekend, Bag Chasers. I'm here in Miami, so I decided to switch the weather. My brother, he was talking on the phone and he was like, yo, you got out at the right time, because I woke up this morning and I think it was a little in the 30-degree mark. And I said, you know what, Anton, can't do 30 degrees. So I will head back sometime in May, maybe early May. I don't know. I will be back in Michigan at some point in May, because I do got to go back there and take care of some business. But I'm going to officially move back. I'm not sure. That window is open. There are no return dates. We're going to get to that, all right? But Bag Chasers, we got a meeting this weekend. We're doing part three of building a brick and mortar business in which I'm putting up my own money, and I need you guys to join in on the process, because there's no better way to learn than to be immersed in a real life situation where you can see how things play out, and then you can maybe get some equity as a part of it. All right? So we doing that. A few days ago, dropped a video on the Patreon that I think is very, very impactful and important. Y'all need to watch that. The previous sessions where we did part 1 and 2 is up on the Patreon, so that's there if you need to catch up. And then last but not least, we have the Patreon meetup in Vegas, May 14th. More details to come. If you are not a part of the Bag Chasers, please join the Bag Chasers. The link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. That link will change today, because I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you guys to be able to cam up and have these conversations with us. All right? Derek T is salty right now. Derek T is saying, yo, I know this is weird on live. You missed our call yesterday. I called, texted. When can we reschedule? Derek, why would you ask me that when you can literally just text me? Why would you ask me that? And there is a reason for that, but I'm not going to share it on live. Why would you pay a super chat for that? That is the type of thing that we don't want to do, and that can get you removed from the seat at the table. I'm just kidding. Don't worry about it, Derek. We're going to make sure that we take care of that. Anyways, continuing on. Jesus Christ. He said, yo, I know this is weird, and then he went on to say the weird thing. Anyways, we're going to continue to move on, and we don't want to get derailed from the conversation. Shout out to my dog, Derek. He is a good dude. He was at the Houston meetup, and Derek is awesome, and I met his chick and all of that. So shout out to you, Derek. But we're going to do things a little bit differently here, Derek. Don't say, I know this is weird, and then say the weird thing. That's weird. All right? So, anyways, moving on. I want to have this conversation, and again, make sure you join the Patreon. Link is in the description. Y'all don't go in on Derek in the chat. Stop. Don't go in on Derek in the chat, y'all. Chill out, y'all. All right. Derek is a good dude. That's my guy. All right. So listen. I want to have this conversation, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you guys to be able to have this conversation with me. But I want to go across a couple different things, right? So the first question that I'm asking myself before I share this Harvard article The first question that I'm asking myself before I share this Harvard article is, where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? Do we end it at color? Do we end it at gender? I see people even arguing with people that look like them and they saying, but no, we don't align with you. We don't rock with you because you're an immigrant. And I'm ADOS. Do you know that I didn't even know what ADOS was until I jumped on the internet? Shout out to, hey, Derek, you see how, listen, this is how you handle it. She said, I had my call yesterday and it was incredible. Incredible. Chantel said she had her call yesterday and it was incredible. Hey, if you need personal coaching, let me lead this up here. If y'all need personal coaching or you want to talk to me personally, make sure you send me an email. Go to my website, antondaniels.com. Send me an email through my website, and then we're going to make sure that you get scheduled. Before we get into this whole show, let me go ahead and cook. Look, David E. says, same, Anton. Derek missed something, but I'm going to explain it to him personally. I'm not going to explain it to him on a live. So, Derek, just relax. I don't miss. I'm going to explain it to you when I kick it with you after we get off to the live. All right, fam? But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If you need personal coaching, you need to get in contact with me at antondaniels.com and send me an email from there. And I'm going to tell you why, right? A lot of people don't know this because I don't announce it. I've told some people and I explained it to some people, but I charge significantly less for personal coaching. Now, keep in mind that if you book today, hey, Rita, I don't know if she can hear me, but she'll probably come back because she's on a delay or whatever like that. I'm booked up all the way almost through June now. Actually, I have coaching calls scheduled all the way through the end of the year, right? The key is, if you book now, then you'll probably get a space sometime in May, end of May, early June. I don't know. I got to check my schedule, right? But here's the key, and this is why people find it so valuable. When is the next available dates? When is the majority of the available dates for the coaching sessions?
Like the end of May.
So Rita said end of May. April done. First, second, third week of May, pretty much booked. And the end of May, right? Going into June? Mm-hmm. So you need to send me that email. You said what, babe?
We make an announcement.
What announcement do you want to make, babe?
That if you cannot make your scheduled time, please communicate that.
Rita said if you can't make your scheduled time, please communicate it ahead of time and don't do it the day of because, and I'm going to explain why. This is one of the reasons why I was going to explain why. I charge my corporate clients anywhere from $350 to $475 an hour. I'll show you the invoices. I'll show you the payments. If that's what you want, I'm the king of receipts. I have no problem with that. I charge my corporate clients anywhere from $350 to $475 an hour. And sometimes they don't even need me. They just pay for my time because they want to block off my schedule. Anybody that's seen my calendar know that I've blocked off my calendar for corporate clients. The time that I allocate for you guys, I don't charge you that. Why don't I charge you that? Because I want to make it accessible to as many people as possible that may need insight and understanding into what it is that they need to be doing, whether it be from a relationship perspective, from a business perspective, so on and so forth, right? The way that I determine what I'm going to charge people, and those of you that are in the bag chasers, the Patreon members, you know how it is that you allocate your time. And the price of that is going up, probably in May. So if you have not booked now, you're going to be out of luck. The way that I determine what I'm going to charge regular, everyday folk that may not have the $350 to $475 an hour, because people keep saying, Anton, you're not charging enough. Anton, no, I'm charging what I need to in order to be able to substantiate my time. So the value of your time is evaluated by how much you make per year. You divide that by 8,760, which is the amount of hours in a year. It's not based off of how much you charge for your business. So the only thing I'm asking people to do is not waste my time. That's how I evaluate what I'm going to charge people. And it's not based off of what I charge corporate clients or what I would charge somebody from a business perspective. So I make myself accessible to you guys so that you guys can really, really glean from and get these incredible calls and it does not cost you anything. It just makes up for me having to take time out of spending time with my daughter or my wife in order to take time to spend an hour or a half hour with you. So that's how I determine how I charge my time. But make sure you get in the bag chasers. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Maria says, "I love you, your wife, and your show, but I agree with you. But I agree with you on the calls. I watch for different perspectives and for the learning that you provide, but I get called a Karen every time I call. People on a regular basis, and see, people don't have no idea. They see the majority of the people that come on my panels, and they black, and they say, well, Anton, the majority of your audience is A, you don't know who rock with me because I actually know my people. I know my people. So let's have this uncomfortable conversation. Let's have this uncomfortable conversation, all right? So, racism, right? We all, in a general sense, have an idea of the conversations that's being had across YouTube. People are separating themselves. They go, oh, I'm black, I'm white, or I don't really know what pro-black is, but Sean King advocates for me, and Black Lives Matters, throw the fist in the air, let them go ahead and swindle all of the millions of dollars from you, and then they can buy mansions, and nobody actually knows what pro-black is. Most black people that are pro-black, or white people that think they pro-black and then get discluded by some of the pro-blacks because some pro-blacks don't even believe in white people being pro-black. Nobody has a genuine idea of what this is. And what I call this is reverse racism. But we're going to get to that, right? But how do we separate ourselves, right? Because then I see, again, people saying, well, I'm ADOS, and I'm a black immigrant, and I'm Nigerian, and Nigerians work harder than you, so we don't align with you. And then I hear some people say that they all black, but then they separate themselves based off of skin color. My dog Chaotic, I think that Chaotic is one of the most entertaining people on YouTube, right? I think that he's going to be a future star. And again, we don't censor people, so just because you don't necessarily agree with everything that somebody says don't mean that they shouldn't be able to have a voice for dialogue. But the interesting thing about it is that I heard him say that the darker the woman, the more unruly she is. When both him and I are married to dark women. I find that interesting. So now we separating ourselves based off of skin tone. It's not based off of some parameter that society gave you and said, well, if you have this percentage of black in you, most of y'all don't even know who your real daddy is. If they had DNA testing back in the 1950s, 40s, 30s, and 20s, your parents and your grandparents would be surprised as to who their real daddy is. Shout out to the milkman. Shout out to the mailman. Shout out to the milkman and shout out to the mailman. But let's continue down this path, right? So Harvard recently released a report that basically said that they want to continue to allocate monies to research and atone for their role in slavery. So I'm not going to say it because I haven't actually read articles from the New York Post, but I do have the links, and I'm going to drop that in the description of the video if you guys want to reference it, the Harvard study and the report. They have a lot of extensive conversations and research and dialogue about Boston and Harvard and different colleges' role in the slave trade, right? But Harvard said, you know what? We're going to have conversations, that uncomfortable conversation, and we're going to pledge money to do research and then possibly figure out how we can continue to atone for our role or the institution's role in slavery. Okay. And let me warn y'all, listen, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not here to fucking make you feel good. I'm here to have uncomfortable conversation. I don't have to drop the link in the chat. I don't. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm good. One of the reasons why I created this platform is because I had reached a space in my life to where I don't have to be subjected to anybody. I'm good for the rest of my life. So now I'm allowing people to participate in this conversation because I want to hear other people's perspectives. So if you are the type of person that is not open to the possibility of learning something different, or open to the possibility of changing your mind, or looking to have dialogue that may see things, or people that may see things differently from you, this ain't you. This is not for you. You can go ahead and find you a space where they're going to make you feel good about yourself, and then you can run in the Victim Olympics, okay? But we're going to go over this. I have not read this. And let me show you well, I'll show it to you in a minute. So this is by the Associated Press, reported on the New York Post and several other websites, right? It says Harvard University is vowing to spend $100 million to study and atone for his extensive ties with slavery, the school's president announced Tuesday. Now, I already know, listen, if they had said nothing and just shut up, they could have probably flew under the radar more effectively, but there's going to be some people that say, well, $100 million ain't enough. Well, they shouldn't have said nothing. They should have just kept all of their money to not try to atone for anything, but they're starting to participate in the process. But I already know that there's going to be people that say, what? I already had this conversation. I had this conversation with the Ralph Lauren HBCU's conversation on the Lapeef Let's Talk. But we're going to have a conversation. We're going to go through it. With plans to identify and support the descendants of enslaved people who labored at the Ivy League campus. President Lawrence announced the funding as Harvard released a new report detailing the many ways the college benefited from slavery and perpetuated racial inequality. Interesting. But the report stops short of recommending direct financial reparations, and officials have no immediate plans for that kind of support. Now, before we even deep dive into this, I asked somebody on another panel, I said, okay, well, what's the number? What number would you recommend that American descendants of slaves, I guess that's a thing, what number would you recommend go to all of the different people? One person said $480,000 per person. I said, well, who's going to pay for it? You know what they told me? I don't give a fuck. I don't care how it's going to affect the system. I don't care if the whole financial system collapses. I don't care. So you wasn't really looking for a solution. You only looking to paint a narrative. Then another person came on a panel and they said over $1 million per person. I said, well, how do you pay for it? I didn't really get a direct answer. But we're going to continue this conversation. Harvard, the nation's oldest and wealthiest college, is the latest among a growing number of U.S. schools attempting to confront their involvement with slavery and also make amends for it. Let me ask y'all a question. Do you hold the children of people that did things wrong accountable for the actions of their parents? Ponder that. I'm not asking you to answer it right now. I'm asking you to think about it as you jump up on this panel and you want to have these conversations. Do you hold people that didn't even participate in, also take into consideration the fact that you ain't never been a slave yourself? Doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist. Doesn't mean that you are not directly impacted by it. When I say this is an uncomfortable conversation, we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation. Do you hold them responsible? The children often are the ones that pay for the sins of their parents. It's even biblical. Do you hold them accountable for things that they know not of and things that they didn't participate in? Let's continue. The report commissioned by Bacall found that Harvard's faculty, staff, and leaders enslaved more than 70 Black and Native American people from the school's founding in 1636 to 1783. More than 70 Black and Native American people from the school's founding from 1636 to 1783. It cautions that the figure is almost certainly an undercount, meaning there's more, undocumented. Using historical records, researchers were able to identify dozens of enslaved people by name along with their connection to the university. So they saying that we're going to do the work, and regardless of the backlash that comes along with it, we know that people are going to be upset. even though they may not necessarily have a connection to Harvard. We know that people are going to be upset because they're just looking for a reason to get upset. That's Anton's narrative. That's not necessarily what Harvard said. Enslaved men and women served Harvard presidents and professors and fed and cared for Harvard students, researchers found. Moreover, throughout this period and well into the 19th century, the university and its donors benefited from extensive financial ties to slavery. This is what the report is saying. This is what the report is saying. Let me show you the link, and then I'm going to drop that in the description, and I'm going to save it for you guys just in case you want to come and reference it. I'm going to show you the link to Harvard's website. It is actually on harvard.edu. Let me share this. And it's called The Legacy of Slavery. And it goes through, it gives video, it has pictures, it has extensive things that, here, let me break this up. This is what it looks like on their website. And you can go through and you can deep dive into this report. You can read the report itself, in which it has multiple chapters, the table of contents. It goes into everything that they've found thus far as how Harvard itself and its ongoing probe and research to find out exactly how they benefited from slavery and all the work that they're doing. You can go and download the report. I will drop that in the chat. All right. I'm going to drop that in the chat. So give me a second. Just in case anybody want to reference it, Anton is going to drop that in the chat. There you go. There you go. All right. So let's continue the conversation. I'm going to drop the link in the chat as I continue to read through this. If you want to join the panel and you have a comment, there it is. Let me pin that to the top of the chat. And the link is up there. So if you want to join the panel today and you want to have a conversation with me, here is your chance to do it. If you want to educate Anton and you say he's just an ignoramus and he doesn't know any better and he's just talking out of the side of his mouth, there you go. You have your opportunity to join the panel and participate and educate me on how I'm an ignoramus. MDH251 says yes, because they benefit from the resources their ancestors attained from slavery. Interesting. You know, I hate to conflate this argument, but I know people that benefit from the resources of black people that sold drugs in the neighborhood and they don't hold their children accountable. As a matter of fact, I seen all of y'all watching the BMF documentary with Big Meech's son in it. Do we have a separate set of standards of how we're trying to justify our argument, or are we actually moving in authenticity? I'm interested because I see people that have benefited on the back of people on a regular basis, and we don't hold them to the same standards in our everyday lives. But for some reason, we have a different set of standards when it comes to racism and colorism. You guys are more than welcome to join the panel. That link is in the description. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Let's continue. I want to deep dive into this. Listen, if you got something to say, I'm right here. I'm right here. Let's continue. It said that okay, we're going to go ahead and get right to it. We're going to get right to it. Let's just do it. You guys are more than welcome to read the report yourself. I do ask that you guys cam up just so I can know that you are a real person. You don't have to. Somebody can cam up. Somebody get some. Y'all, I got to know that y'all are a real person so that we won't mess up the platform. If that's cool. No camming up. All right. Until y'all start camming up, I'm going to continue with the report. Track. Let me get track in here. All right. You ready, track? I see other people in the back, but oh, not this troll. Bro, I'm not really sure this is the conversation that you want to troll on. You the dude that was you was faking in Dubai? You was acting like you was in Dubai? Yeah, you was. Yeah, you was. You was the dude that was faking in Dubai. I caught it. I caught it. See, this is the difficulty, right? When I'm trying to have these conversations and being authentic, you got these trolls and people that want to jump in and had a conversation, and it's like, let me bring Elijah in and see if he has something to say. Even though Elijah failed to cam up, what's going on, Elijah?
How you doing, brother?
What's going on? Is it a particular reason you don't want to jump on camera?
I just like to remain somewhat faceless.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna allow
It's
you
a
in
strong.
because I think that you're coming with good faith and intentions, and you're not trying to troll the platform. So I'm willing
Yes,
to
sir.
let you on. What's going on, my friend?
Yes, sir. You raise a beautiful topic today, and you're a beautiful brother that has a beautiful show.
Thank you, my friend.
Frederick. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I admire you, and when I grow up, I want to be like you, brother.
Nah, we want to be like each other. We just gonna grow. We're gonna grow and we're gonna
Yes,
work and we're
sir.
gonna become the best versions of ourselves. I appreciate you, big dog.
Yes, sir. This is a great show because in the Frederick Douglass said that the greatest challenge of the 20th century will be the color line,
Hmm.
because you mentioned color and gender earlier. And what black people, the biggest mistake black people make is that slavery never ended. Slavery never ended. Slavery never ended. The proof of it is Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution of the United States at this very second refers to us as 60% of a human being. We're
Hmm.
three we're 3/5 of a human being right now. We're 60% of a human being. White people's dog is considered 80% of a human being. So we're less than dogs in America, and that's why we can be if you turn on the news, we get shot down by the police all day every day, and nothing, little to nothing is done about it. We all know about George Floyd,
Hmm.
Laquan McDonald, Tamir Rice. Uh, Ever since the George Floyd lynching, it was a lynching, an assassination. Ever since that, there have been about 5,000 black men killed by the police.
Are all
So,
those 5,000, when we start to add context, and one of the people that I lean on heavily for these statistics and additional insight into that is Nathan Daly. And I think that Nathan Daly, I'm not sure who you know he is. Y'all go follow what Nathan's YouTube channel is called, Real Nathan Daly. And Nathan Daly is a former police officer who was injured and during duty, right? And he disputes a lot of the data with data that shows that there's additional context as to why people are um, being killed by the police, right? And
right.
it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? I'm not
Yes, yes,
discounting
sir.
the idea that racism doesn't exist or that people are unjustly killed by the police, right? I mean,
Right.
it happens.
You're giving balance, and I
Right, but
appreciate
it's the context. It's similar to a conversation that I have with people when they say, "Well, women file for 80% of the divorces, right?" But the context is that the guy already checked out and he moved out of the house.
it. Right.
Really just a process sometimes, right? So I'm wondering what the additional context is into those statistics that help us to paint a fuller picture of exactly what's going on in society. Because one of the
Eh,
things that Nathan said is that more white people get killed by the police on a daily basis than black people. But then at the same time, black people substantially commit the majority of the crimes, even though they are a minority of the population. So how do you
Right.
dispute that, right? How do you dispute that? When I see these crimes happening in California, there's a big thing and it's starting to take over as a wave across the United States, and that the majority of people that are committing crimes following people from home because they're watching people in these luxury stores and then they're following them home and they're robbing them and they're taking everything that they got and they killing them. And the majority of these people that are committing crimes in marijuana dispensaries and shops, the majority of the people that are doing the robberies and the killings are black people. So then when you take that into consideration and you combine that with the statistics that the killings that happen, and again, not discounting the ones that are unjust, because George Floyd was unjust, right? And all the other ones that were advertised on TV, right?
Right.
How do we take that also into consideration without being
Short
dismissive
sighted.
dismissive of the ones that are justifiably not right?
Right. Well, history, that's an excellent point. History develops the motive. And what we have to do is what the intelligent thing to do is what you're doing right now. And you're looking at this thing comprehensively from many different angles and aspects. And the gentleman you referred to that spoke of more white people getting killed, we have to look directly into his motive. He might have a white wife, or he might be trying to protect.
He's not married, does not have any kids.
No, that's why I said may, or he may be trying to get a higher position with the slave master. But we have a 500-year track record for. Uh, we can go back to slavery. We can go back to our brother Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
We have how you do anything. A spiritual law, a great spiritual law is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Correct.
And we have
I agree
we
with
have
that.
a yes, sir. We have a 500-year track record. All you have to do is look up uh, look up the book, Google the book Without Sanctuary. Just put Without Sanctuary
Mm-hmm.
in your Google search. Google Laura Nelson. This was a black woman. She and her son were hanged from a bridge, and white people are on the bridge smiling and laughing, and they gang raped her before they hung her and her son. So we are well familiar with the implications and ramifications of racism and the underpinnings and the underminings. We have a 500-year resume, we have a 500-year track record,
Mm-hmm.
and our slavery has been cleverly hidden by the Constitution in Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3. And these police lynchings, we before they could hide them and say with a line in the newspapers saying that black man dies in jail, black man commits suicide in jail. But now we've been able to see it because of Kyocera and Nokia and the cameras on the cell phone, and we've been able to capture what really happened and are able to see through the lies. We're able to see how the police have said, "Oh, I had to shoot him because he had a gun," but now we come to find out that you shot him and then put the gun on him. So,
What do you say to this super chat right here where it says Section 2 of the 14th Amendment, 1868, superseded this clause and explicitly repealed the compromise, but women are not in the Constitution? What do you think about that? And thank
uh,
everybody for the super chats also.
excellent point, because women were considered that point speaks to the fact that women were considered property of men back then as well, but they weren't enslaved to the degree that we were. So it's an excellent point.
But
Somebody's
is enslavement, how do we justify that though? Like you said that
just
that women weren't enslaved to the degree in which we were.
because white men didn't have to get a bunch of ships and send them over to Africa in an organized business to go get their women and their wives.
In which black people participated in.
To a limited degree, the
But
blacks
they
in Africa,
participated though.
I get that. They didn't participate to the. They didn't. They didn't know that. They didn't know that we would go through lynching and castration, and they didn't know when when they sold their brother they didn't even get pennies on the dollar. All you have to do is
Well, that's just bad business sense, but it doesn't absolve them from the behavior.
true. You're a great businessman, and you know what I'm about to say is true. You When you do an investigation, the first thing you do is follow the money. And those brothers that sold us into slavery do not have Fortune 500 corporations back in Accra, Ghana. I've lived in Africa. Those brothers
I
don't have
understand.
the
No,
fortune.
I don't disagree with you, but what I'm saying
Yes, sir.
is
Yes, sir.
their inability to capitalize off of it to the extent that the white man that took advantage of it, that was on the receiving end of that transaction, does not weigh any more or any less heavy on their participation in the trade.
Sure it does. And let me give you an
Well,
analogy.
let me read the super chat and then I want you to go. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
They said, hate it, but I love it. These combos are tough, but so thought provoking. This show has definitely shifted my perspective. Thank you, Mama T, and thank you to everybody that contributes to the platform. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Elijah.
Let me give you an analogy. If you're a businessman, if you have a gun shop, and somebody comes in there and buys an AK-47 or some type of assault rifle, and you sell it to them for $1,000, $1,500. You give them their receipt, and you tell them on their way out, "Sir, have a nice day." 3 days later, the assault rifle you sold, you're watching the news, and somebody goes and in a company and shoots and kills up 40 people, and they trace the gun back to your shop. Are you accountable for those 40 deaths? Of course not. You merely did a
But one,
transaction. You
you're
merely did it.
no,
You
no, no,
merely did it.
no. But see that's where we differ, right?
Yes, sir.
We differ because I believe that there are people that are on both sides of the gun debate that will not participate in selling guns at all because they know that the true intention of that gun owner is to take the life of something or someone eventually, whether it be in protection, whether it be whatever. You cannot absolve yourself of the responsibility of participating in it at all simply because you didn't know what the intention of the user was going to be, right?
By
We
by
that's the yin and the yang of being a business owner, right?
Right.
If I'm creating a platform, if I'm creating a Facebook, if I'm creating a Twitter, right? I don't see anybody absolving Mark Zuckerberg of the responsibility that came along with disinformation from elections and people being able to leverage certain platforms. I don't see anybody that was
True.
absolving Jack Dorsey of the responsibility and the debate that's happening that comes along with him being the CEO and co-founder of Twitter. Then they saying that regardless of what your intentions were when you started the platform, we're still holding you responsible.
True. True. I agree with you, but there are different levels to this thing. We're talking about the morality and the moral level of this particular issue, but let's switch to the economic level of this issue. Um, the the money, the more responsibility does go back to a handful of brothers in Africa, but the monetary responsibility lies in America, where the slave trade the slave trade in 200 short years built the greatest superpower that we live in today. In 200 short years, for our 300, well, for our 400 years of slave labor has built this country. And now we are owed reparations. And if we look at the word reparations, the root word of reparations is not money. The root word of reparations is to repair. And we need the psychological, mental, spiritual damage. That's where we
So
need.
are we holding accountable everyone that participated in the slave trade? Is what I'm saying. And let me read the super chat,
Yes, sir.
and this is not necessarily from me. This is from the super chat that I'm having this conversation as far as this next question. It says,
Yes, sir.
"Nah, both sides of the slave trade need to be held accountable, African and European."
Very true. Very true. But the 95%, the African brothers, again, Google without sanctuary. The African brothers did not take us uh, out of our house, out of our bed with our wife, hang us from the tree, cut our penis off, cut our fingertips off, and make keychains out of them and sell them as souvenirs, while our wives and children had to pull us down and bury us.
What about this comment right here? He says there are literally complaint letters by admirals and captains of French, Italian, and English ships where they complained that Africans refused trade with resources but wanted to buy guns with slaves. What do you think about that?
Uh, yeah, and a lot of rapists complain that their rape victim uh, didn't want to participate.
I don't
A
I don't
perp-
understand. I
a,
don't understand how
a
you
perpetrator a
align that.
perpetrator a perpetrator cannot complain. A perpetrator has no right to complain, and that's what in a colloquial term, that's called deflection. That's called war strategy. In speaking, that's called deflection. In war strategy, that's called a diversionary tactic. And that's somebody trying to get off of the real issue and the true issue. That's not going to work. And as far as responsibility and accountability goes, the best way to put it is there's an old Cuban proverb that says, when slaughtering a cow, he who holds the tail is just as guilty as he who slits the throat.
So then that would mean, in my mind, that the people that perpetuated and participated in the slave trade on the African side is just as responsible as the people that actually engaged and benefited off of it as far as building this country.
No, because if you look in
No,
law, there's no. If you look in law, there's a thing called there's we have murderers and we have accessories to murder. Just because all you have to do is watch First 48, and just because
I do. They
somebody
be in there telling for a pack of gum and some Kit Kats.
yes, sir. the just when some if somebody steals a gun, takes that gun and go murders three people, the person that they stole the gun from does not get the same amount of punishment
But they
as
still are held
the murderer.
accountable. They
Yes,
are
sir. Yes,
still
sir.
held
I agree.
accountable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree. But
Let me
not
get let me
but
get
not
Aaron in
but
here.
not to the degree.
Let me get Aaron in here. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this, my friend? Welcome to the panel. I appreciate you for coming up.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I think that reparations are definitely owed. I think the examination is definitely something that needs to be done, and to speak to the point of like accountability for Africans versus like the United States. So there's a couple of points. Assuming that the information we have is accurate about African participation, because I cannot just take for I cannot just take the word of people that will lie about stuff that happened yesterday. Like they will they'll lie about what Elon Musk or Trump said or somebody else said yesterday, and we all saw it. And then I'm not just going to take their word that this is what happened hundreds of years ago. But let's assume that that's accurate. Let's
Mm-hmm.
assume that Africans did take part in the slave trade. There's no existing African countries or nations that that took place in it back then that continue to exist today. So the African nations that exist today, like they started in like the 50s. That's when Ghana got its independence, and then these other nations started getting their independence. The United States is still a country that took part in this activity and still exists today. Harvard apparently is one of the private organizations that what took place in it and took part in it and still exists today. So as far as existing organizations and nations that took place in slavery and took place in the Mafa, the African Holocaust, that's where accountability should be found and attributed to.
What do you think about that, Elijah?
Uh, I can't argue with it. The brother made very beautiful, very valid points, very excellent points. Harvard, if you look at, you have their crest up on the screen. Veritas is a Latin word meaning truth. And the truth of the matter is, Harvard, you're being very hypocritical.
Harvard is being
Why?
hypocritical.
Yes, sir.
How is
Why?
Harvard being hypocritical?
Because in 1832, Nat Turner led a slave revolt. And after they caught him, uh, his capturers skinned him alive. And then Harvard, they cut it when they cut his head off and decapitated him and cut his head off.
Uh huh.
Har- his head was sent to Harvard to be examined to find out why did niggers not like slavery and why did niggers fight slavery. So Harvard needs to address that and stop being hypocritical.
Well, what Harvard did is that they're saying that they're allocating resources to do the research and possibly atone for their participation in it. You think that that's hypocritical for them to actually start to do the work? Because I thought that
If
that's
they
what people were asking for. Well, hold on.
right.
Before you answer that, let me read some of these super chats. It says we have to stop running in the victim Olympics before this conversation gets anywhere close to productive. Thank you for the super chat, real. Also, Akin Tunde, I think that's what your name is, says your arguments are weak, Anton, and can easily be picked apart. I would get on, but I don't want Cam, as I do respect your platform, even though I don't agree with your perspective. I'm letting people up on a case by case basis on the platform. I prefer that you jump on camera, but as long as that I can prove that you are not a troll, I am more than welcome to let you up on on a camera. And see, here's the thing that people don't understand before I get to some of these other super chats. I'm not dedicated to being right. That's not what this conversation is about. I'm dedicated to getting understanding. So when I ask questions, right, I'm forcing people to substantiate their argument, not necessarily trying to prove them wrong. And so the thing that we need to all be doing is getting understanding instead of trying to prove somebody wrong, because just because you can eloquently articulate yourself does not necessarily mean that you're speaking in truth. So these gentlemen, for example, can very much be right. But at the same time, we need to learn how to communicate more effectively. So just because I push back, because there are some things that I agree with them on, and then there's some things that I want to question and push back based off of their logic as to how they're approaching the conversation, it doesn't mean that the arguments need to be picked apart. It means that we need to continue to seek for and mine for the truth and insight and understanding so that we can make better decisions going forward. But if we can't even do that because we're so busy trying to debate instead of have a conversation, which I believe that this conversation is very, very respectful. I think that we are articulating our points. I think the gentleman that's come on the panel has communicated effectively. I think that they are very respectful, and I'm trying to be very respectful to them also. That's the way that these conversations need to go. So it's not about being right or wrong. It's about having civil discourse, which allows for us to
Right.
grow. It's not
Right.
about being right. It's
Right.
about getting understanding. Let me read a couple more of these super chats. It says they sold us for cheap guns, rum, and cloth. Shout out to Aaron for the super chat. I appreciate you, family. We got Mama T says, with all love and respect, not to be dismissive, but can debate slavery until the end of time. There's academic space for it, but does it help us improve? What do y'all think about that?
Well, I think it's not even about debating slavery, because the MAFA, and that's why I want to reiterate that term, the MAFA, the African Holocaust, is more than just slavery. Because once slavery ended, the MAFA continued. So you had the Black Codes, you had Jim Crow, you had convict leasing, you had these attacks on black politicians. You had these attacks on black wealth. So Black Wall Street, and Tulsa, Oklahoma wasn't the only Black Wall Street. You had coordinated. You had the when they passed the New Deal and they purposely excluded black people from being able to benefit, redlining, like over and over. You just go, and then when they ultimately destroyed Black Wall Street with eminent domain and urban improvement.
I'm from Tulsa. I grew born and raised.
Yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like all of these things continued. So like when people keep minimizing things, when they say, "Oh, well, slavery ended," yeah, that's not the only crime that was committed. There was been a systematic, intentional pattern of trying to destroy black people and to destroy black progress. So when black people, because black people rebuilt after slavery, black people rebuilt, built something, and then they were attacked. Like they literally got guns. They like with Tulsa, Oklahoma. They actually went to the airport, put bombs and flammables
Airplanes.
inside the airplanes, and firebombed the town from the air. Like
The
they
police
have
the police the
systematically.
police the police department loaned out their machine gun to the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan went up on a hill and mowed down black people.
Yes.
60% of the Oklahoma Senate at that time were Klansmen. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is all of this stuff is stuff that they don't want to talk about because then they can't, because then it becomes evident how much more serious this is. But it's not even a matter of whether schools teach it or whether white conservatives want to talk about it. The fact is we have to know it, and we have to be teaching our kids about it, because among like one thing I really appreciate, and I look at what the Jewish community does, is they make sure that never forget is not just the slogan, it's
Beautiful.
reality. Because
Beautiful.
they know that if these people, if they had people with this much hatred towards us, what makes us think that this hatred suddenly just disappeared and now suddenly everybody's like, oh yeah, that we love you now. Like, no, we can see today, we can see
So, so
teenagers.
what would you guys say is the solution then, right? Because we know this to be true, right? Which is one of
Yes.
the reasons I don't push back against this
Right.
particular thing, right? I've done a little bit of research on Tulsa. I've done a deep dive on it personally, and so we know that you're telling the truth. What now? Because
Independence.
See,
let me
It,
preface this by saying
no,
the conversations that I see happen more often than not is people looking for acknowledgement, right? They look to be acknowledged about how they feel, or you know how whatever their argument is. But I don't see people actually being able to come to some kind of conclusion or solution. How much is it? When is it going to be enough? Who has to pay for it? How many kids are have to atoning
right.
for the sins of their father? What does a solution look like for you guys?
But see, the lady said we could debate slavery. There is no debate for slavery. What the reason we're having this dialogue and discourse, uh, brother, you a beautiful black brother that is interested in. You're not interested in your ego. You're not interested in who's right. What you're interested in as a beautiful black man is that you're interested in the free exchange of ideas.
Correct.
And there is no debate for slavery. And we have to have this free exchange of ideas. Why? Because we are at the brink of extinction. We are being wiped out. There are no more black families anymore. Like the elder said, our men are the majority of our men are either dead or locked up. Gang violence and crack has wiped out black men, and the favorite saying of black females nowadays is "I don't need no man," and that has turned into "I don't want no man." So our families are not being produced, and our neighborhoods have been wiped out, and that is the point, reason, and justification for us having this discussion and this dialogue. And the solution to this problem of racism, of gentrification, police extermination, and job elimination of the 70s, and our extermination, the solution to our genocide, to the solution to us being killed off, was given by God in a book called the Bible in Revelation 18:5, where he says, "Come out of her, my people, and be not partakers of her sins." And we have to, what we have to do, we have over $2 trillion a year people. But our black females, instead of a husband, they want to buy a bunch of wigs and weaves instead. That's their new husband. And they spend $20 billion a year on fake hair from Asians. And so we have to take that money. We need to take that money and rebuild the Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street. We have to rebuild the Rosewood, Florida. We have to take an interest in ourselves, and we have to rid ourselves. Why do we kill ourselves? Like we said earlier, we kill ourselves so much that the white man has made a TV show out of it where he sits back and laughs at it with his kids. We have to take that money that we're wasting, and all that killing that we do to each other comes from self-hatred, and we have to invest and reinvest in ourselves.
But
We have to
let
have.
me push back a little bit, right? Because
Yes,
and
sir.
maybe Aaron, and I do want to get you in here, Black Lyrics. Um, maybe I'm missing it, right? Because you're giving me insight into how people can change their behavior. I'm trying to understand at a very basic level what is the expectation for people, for the Harvards, right? For America, for the people that we like to hold accountable, or our friends, right? I got white friends, I got all kind of friends, and maybe their grandparents were some of the most egregious people on the face of the earth. What is a solution after talking about the things that we don't agree with that's happened to black people in America specifically?
I see reparations not as a solution, but as a litmus test, because quite frankly, I have doubts as to whether or not the United States will actually ever pay reparations to Black Americans. So I believe we still need to demand it, but we need to see it as a litmus test. This is a test to see where you stand. Are you going to be held accountable for your crimes against humanity, the crimes that you've committed against Black people, or not? Because this is going to have profound implications on how we deal with each other going forward from this point forward. You know, and so I think while we that needs to be a litmus test, we need to have in place, and we need to be working towards other solutions. And the primary focus of the Black agenda needs to be independence. Like, we cannot let a system that has committed as many atrocities as it has against Black people be in control and have custody and control of our children for 13 years and think that our community is going to somehow succeed.
Black Lyrics, how you doing, love?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. What are your thoughts?
I agree with both of the people on the panel. I'm a true believer in the Bible, in the Word of God, and the fact that they're now all of a sudden they're bringing reparations to the table is actually biblical. Um, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite, but I do believe that we are the ones that came through the African diaspora. We are the children of the Israelites, one of the tribes. And in the word, it says
Can you
that,
break that down for me? The
okay,
black diaspora, because I'm not honestly. I am just now really getting hip to all of the different terms that people are using across the internet. Since the pandemic, I've been bombarded with different terms and words, and I feel confused. What do you mean by black diaspora?
well, I mean, those that went through slavery, those that went through, their ancestors went through slavery. That's how we were scattered, throughout the nation. Um, it wasn't by being an immigrant, quote unquote. It was by us being kidnapped and then taken to several parts of the
Do
world.
you agree with the whole kidnapped um, narrative, considering that we were sold and we weren't necessarily kidnapped?
It's a mixture of both.
Or the kidnapping came from us.
It's a mixture of both. So I look at the story of Joseph, for example. Joseph was sold into slavery from his own brothers.
Correct.
And the first people that bought Joseph were Arabs. I mean, not to be politically correct, but they were Arabs. So it almost signifies what was the first people that took us off. Yes, our own brothers. Were they,
But
were
okay,
they like
in
of a different race?
that story, right? When I read that story in the Bible, and I've read the Bible back and forth 7 times, right? And I study, I mean, I study every day, every morning, 4:30 a.m. I pray, 5 o'clock. I open my Bible, right? When I read that story, all the way from the time that I first read it when I was 14 years old, all the way up until being 40 years old today, I'm disappointed in the brothers that sold him, even though I'm not necessarily holding accountable the buyers, right? It's almost like, and I hate to use this example, if my girl go out and sleep with another guy, I don't care about what the other guy do. The guy did what guys do. I'm holding her accountable. I'm not holding the guy accountable. So how do we then look at the people that had the purchase agreements instead of the people that actually put you on the market? How do we have more hate, vitriol, requiring of resources, holding accountable than the people that actually participated that was next to you that may look like you? I'm trying to understand that part.
Definitely, they need to be held accountable. But we're talking about a set few versus an ongoing thing where it was multiple nations came into, you know, the west side of Africa and decided to take us. I've actually been to the slave castle in Ghana. I recommend everybody, if you get a chance to go to one of the countries in Africa. Um, and that's what they said. They said about being sold into slavery, being portrayed and being sold into slavery, but we were also taken too. So yes, the story of Joseph, I blame his brothers, of course. They
But the
ended up
story of
having
the
to
story of
of
Joseph is
Joseph.
about forgiveness.
Right. But it's
Mmm.
about forgiveness, but it's also about paying a debt. See, Joseph
Is it?
started off when Joseph went into Egypt, he didn't start he if he had to eventually he ended up being a high official, but he didn't start off as that.
But the reason that he ended up that way is because he never took pity upon himself throughout his process. He was never looking to get anything from anybody. He was only looking to level up. He understood that the thing that he went through was what he needed to embrace in order to be better than everybody else. And I think that we miss a lot of lessons that come along with those stories personally. I think that the lessons that come along with that story is that he didn't hold it against his brothers. He didn't even take his situation into consideration when going through the things that he needed to go through in order to become Joseph, the Joseph that we all know and love. So if we're looking at the story holistically instead of just looking at the things the what transpired throughout the Bible, it's a story of victory, but it comes through A, forgiveness, and B, not leaning on the thing that you went into in order to try to justify your current situation, right? I was born in the hood, right? And I'm not using this to justify slavery or nothing, but I'm using it as an example. A lot of us were born in the hood. I think that that gave me a leg up on the people that, I was in the classroom with because they felt entitled. I felt empowered, right? I had a grit and a grind against me, and it's the thing that I tell men all the time. Men need to suffer. Men need to go through things, right? They need to earn their way through because it makes it that much more impactful as far as the things that you use on a daily basis in order to justify your existence. Because then that's where men are forged. They're forged. They aren't made. And it's a certain thing that you got to go through. Every single person that wound up being excellent in the Bible had to go through something, which is
Right. But can I
which
ask
is
you
where
can I
the,
ask you
the scripture come from, where it says, "If you suffer with me, you'll reign with me." I mean, Jesus Himself, right?
Yeah.
Jesus does not hold anything against the people that crucified Him. Those are the very people He came back to save, knowing that He was going to be crucified.
Right, but what I was going to say is, okay, so when you think about is the Israelites, right? if you're what you're saying is right, then what was the point of having Moses? There would have been no point of having Moses. Israelites, okay, look, your people, whoever sold you in out sold you into Egypt, I'm sorry, forgive them. God didn't do that. Now, yes, they were slaves for 400 years after Joseph, his family died off. They were slaves for 400 years, but God didn't tell them when they left. When Moses came, Moses left. Like you said, leveled up. Moses left Egypt. He got married. He was starting his own little business, you could say, small business, being a shepherd. But God spoke to him and said, no, you're going to have to go back into Egypt and you're going to get my people. Because our people, you're Anton, you could say you're Moses, right? But you still got people that are still Israelites who are still
And
stuck.
guess what?
But you
Throughout that
can't, but you
story,
can't.
every last one of those people that he went to get had to die off before we started moving forward.
But why did they die off though, Anton? And even
Wait,
before they died off, wait, let me say one thing. Before they died off, Anton, God told through Moses told them, you borrow from your neighbor, meaning the Egyptians, you borrow from your neighbor gold and silver. You take every gold and silver they have except for their gods. You take all the gold and silver. God made sure they got what was due. God hates people who treat the poor badly. The
that's
poor,
not the
the
context of
fatherless.
the story. The entire Old Testament. I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but the entire Old Testament, a lot of the things that we take literal in the Old Testament was done away with the washing of the blood and the sacrificial lamb in Jesus Christ. But I don't want to make this too much of a
Okay.
spiritual
Okay.
That's
conversation.
Well,
that's fine.
I do want to insert. I got my boy Mr. Logic on here also, but go ahead, Aaron.
yeah. So even if we're not going to make this a spiritual discussion, let's make it a legal discussion. Let's make it a legal discussion of crime and punishment. Because right now, black dude goes out, kills somebody. Guess what? He gets locked up. He's punished. This government committed crimes. For hundreds of years, this government committed crimes against black people. There needs to be accountability. It's not even like, and that's why I
So
say
let's go back to the
that.
original question, and I want to go to Mr. Logic after you answer this. Right? What is the solution?
Oh, like I
Because
said,
we
reparations.
say, okay,
Reparations.
I want to be acknowledged, or this needs to happen. Okay, so what does that look like? What does held accountable look like to you?
Okay, so that's the thing. I can't decide for all of us. And so, like, what's happening in California, where they have the reparations bill, HR 40 is talking. HR 40 is the federal level discussion of reparations, and they're talking about putting it together a commission. But in California, they actually have a commission together, and they've been examining it, determining who's going to be eligible. The problem with that is the government should not be making this say. This is a discussion that should be happening amongst black communities all over the United States. All over the United States, we should be having town halls, getting together, and there should be no. Oh, I'll just wait till everything's done, and then I'll get my reparations check. That means all of us have to get involved. We go to these town halls, we get educated, we provide our input of what reparations and what we want to see as reparations, who's eligible, and hammer these details out, and
So what
then
would you
we go to the
suggest?
government.
What would you suggest?
Oh, for one, number one, there has to be some financial component, land component,
Give me a
but
number. Give me a number.
I can't give you a number like that. I
You
really
got to
can't
you
give you a
got to
number.
give
No,
me
I
a
can't.
actual.
I literally
Not
can't.
saying that the number needs to be accurate or is sufficient or whatever, but we have to. You got to start somewhere, right? How do you start to have a discussion off of anything when you don't have anything? I always say, right, as a person that's worked in corporate America in certain various roles, always like to actually give us something to start UXing off of. So I'll create a prototype and I'll put it on the board, or we can even be as simple as just actually drawing something on a whiteboard and say, okay, what don't we like? What do we need to take away? What do we want to see? But you got to start with something, because if you don't
Right,
start with anything, a suggestion, a
but
number, or whatever
if
to
you
start
jump
tearing
out there,
apart.
if you jump out in a negotiation saying a number without actually having a foundation, a bunch of research with you,
Well, you
then
said
you
that
could
we needed to have
right,
these conversations
right.
amongst each
And so
other,
that's what I'm saying.
right? So
Yes,
we're not saying
and
that you
then we
take.
need to go to them, and then we go to
Right.
them.
So
That's what I'm saying.
so let me frame it. Let me frame it,
Yeah,
right? I'm not saying the number that you're, because I'm using your example, right? So I'm not saying the number that you need to pitch to whoever it is that you're requiring this justification from. I'm saying when you start having these town halls, right? And you start saying, okay, you know what? We need to come up with something. What does that look like?
Right. Well, my focus isn't even the number. My focus is the process, because the process in itself
Process to do what?
acts as a purification. The process of tabulating all of these crimes, because that's part of the process of actually making an exact uh, tabulation of what was done to Black people. Because and that's why I think this conversation is so important, because there's so many people who, if you say you're going to push back, there's so many people who disagree with you but don't have the knowledge base to push back with, okay, this is what actually why they disagree with you. And that's what we need. And the problem with that is, once again, right now our children are in the custody and control of the government that committed these crimes against us. We
Right.
cannot
Yes,
succeed. There is no way we
yes.
can succeed in allowing our children to be in their custody and control and think that this is going to work out in our benefit. There's no way.
All right, let me read some of these super chats and then I want to go over to Mr. Logic. Aaron says an economic penalty from the government and liable parties, example, land, cash, property, and assets. Mulligan's World says, wait. Mulligan's World says, talking about it doesn't fix things because it already happened. Say we do get reparations. There's no black delegation to disperse or use it right. Give me a second. Let me go through a couple more of these. Shout out to Justin Palmer with the $20 super chat. I appreciate your family for contributing to the platform. Very, very much appreciated everybody that's contributed to the platform. Mr. Logic, what are your thoughts, bro? Mr. Logic, you there, bro? I don't know if you can hear me. Mr. Logic, Mr. Logic. All right, I'm guessing Mr. Logic is not there.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you,
me?
big dog. I can hear you.
All right, hold up. I don't know how to work this shit.
Mr. Logic is one of my dear friends on these platforms.
Can you hear me, brother Anton?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead, you can speak while Mr. Logic get himself together.
Well, a correction. Jesus didn't come back to save his enemies. He said that he he's quoted as saying he prays not for the world. And the the moral and the lesson that we get out of the story of Joseph, the moral that comes out of it is that um, what's most important is the plan of God, because Joseph told his brothers when his brothers apologized, and his brothers selling him into slavery. See, 25% of the Bible is historic. 75% of the Bible is prophetic, meaning it's futuristic, meaning it's talking about uh, every parable and story of the Bible is talking about the black man here today in America, and brothers selling each other into slavery. That's why we call each other sellouts. That's where the term sellouts come from. That's why we sell crack to each other from 1980 on up to now. And so we're selling each other into bondage. That's why we have Crips and Bloods killing each other. In Chicago, we got vice lords, El
So
Rukers, Four Corners.
there's no personal accountability on none of this stuff. It's all
No,
based
I
off.
never said that.
No.
There's
I'm
always
asking.
personal accountability.
I'm asking.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, at all times. And the will slavery was the will of God. And why did God want us in slavery? Because he wanted to make the greatest people ever. In the Bible, it says, I didn't try my people with silver and gold. I tried my people in the fiery
Right.
furnace of affliction. So God has put us in the oven of white people and slavery. Genesis 15:13, know ye for a surety, Abraham, your seed would be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, America. You will serve them and afflict them
That's
400 years.
that's not my
Wait,
translation of it, but okay, go ahead.
well, you can get a new translation. After which I will come and judge that nation, and you will come out of her with great substance. In other words, the command of God is that
Mhm.
black people do what they do not want to do, unite and come together and start to love each other again.
So let's
And
assume
that,
that everything you said is absolutely accurate, 100%, the interpretation of it and everything, right?
yes, sir.
You actually see black people coming together after all of
Oh,
these years, all of these thousands of years, right? You see
mhm.
black people coming together to band together and have this great party of great victory after all of this, correct?
It's the Bible calls it the kingdom of heaven. Around 1977, a song came out, I think by Peaches and Herb, that said reunited, and it feels so good. Reunited because we understood. There's one perfect fit, and sugar, this one is it. We both are so excited because we're reunited. So if that does not, God orders that. God said, "Love ye one another." God, uh, God said, "Love is the greatest." And if a sword,
Black
a
people are
sword,
more divided than they ever have been in history.
yes, sir, yes, sir. Let me finish. A sword
Who created that
has
division?
us exactly.
Well, no,
A
no, no, no,
sword,
no, no, no. I'm going based off of what he's saying
yeah,
as far
yeah.
as his translation or his
Mhm.
interpretation of what the word is, right? And I'm asking him specifically, according to that interpretation, what does he see today?
Let's the best examples are a sword and a coin. They both have what? What do they have in common? They both have two sides. The command of God has two sides. He said, "Love ye one another as I have loved you." He said, "Love is the greatest. Not money, not cars, not homes, not diamonds, not jewelry. Love is the greatest." If God also says the other side of his sword, if we do not accept his commandment, then the wages of sin, and the greatest sin, black people are practicing the greatest sin in history. The greatest sin is not theft. The greatest sin is not abuse. The greatest sin is not loving each other. And the wages of sin is death. If if whites don't atone for their 500 years of slavery,
That doesn't
and
make
if
sense
blacks
because
do,
the people that
can I
actually,
finish? Can I finish? Oh, okay.
of
Let me
course, of
finish.
course. All right,
I'm
I'm
almost
sorry.
done.
No,
I'm
no, no.
almost
I'm
done,
sorry.
brother.
Let me apologize because I
No
have a
problem, brother.
limited amount of time and I want to make sure that
Yes, sir.
everybody gets in.
Yes, sir. If if whites do not atone for their 500 years of slavery, slavery is all crimes put together. It's rape, robbery, lynching, every crime in the book. If whites don't atone for their 500 years of slavery, and if we don't atone for our 60 years of hating each other, the book of Revelation, God gives the whole planet, well, not the whole planet, but the white part of the planet, a death sentence. And that's why we have a war in Russia, because that war has started up and it's going to heat up and spread to Europe and draw America in. America is already sending arms to help one side of that war.
Hmm.
And so,
You do
uh,
realize that there has been war in different parts of Africa
yes, sir. Those are
perpetually. So
skirmishes.
oh, those are skirmishes.
I lived in Rwanda and
Wait,
walked
wait, wait,
amongst
wait,
the
wait. So you
Tutsis
telling me
and the
those are just
Hutus.
skirmishes?
Yes, I'm not talking about those little tribal conflicts. I'm talking about what is described and named in the book of Revelations as Armageddon, the war that will end all wars. And there's a law. God has God's strongest law is called sowing and reaping. America has sown 500 years of racism and slavery. What what a man, the scripture teaches us, what a man sows, what a country sows, that country must also reap. And when we talk about plague, pestilence, massive massive death of millions of people is what the book of Armageddon tells us, and it is the death penalty and death sentence that God promises that God is going to carry out on America, and he's going to carry it out on black people if we do not turn to him and atone for our sins.
I appreciate it. What are your thoughts, Jared, on this whole thing? Well, let me get to some of these super chats. I don't want to get behind. Scam Likely says, for the next live The Peep Show in Atlanta, let's do a blackathon on June 19th. The beloved white man texted me and said he would like to attend. You got jokes, okay. All right, you got jokes. I see you, Scam Likely. MDH 251 says, we are coming together. We recognize we have to comb out the ones that aren't for our progression. That has been our biggest problem thus far. What are your thoughts, Jared?
True.
Man, I'm conflicted whether or not I want to respond to our brother with the biblical talk, or if I want to respond to this situation. So I'll say this to our brother there first, and then I'm gonna move on. I think it's very easy for us to ascribe meaning to things looking back on them as prophetic, but I also think we need to keep in mind societal context at that time when these books were written were very different than what they are right now. I think it's a long shot for us to say that as society existed then would apply to America today, when America wasn't a twinkle in anybody's eye at that point in time. There were many societies that failed between now and then, but that's a conversation for another time. As far as this the conversation around racism, you guys were having a great conversation around reparations, and Anton, you hit on a point that I think is a very important point for us to really talk more about. Um, we do need to start with the baseline if we're going to have a conversation about what we're demanding. It's very difficult for us collectively to say, I want you to give me something, but we've not quantified what it is that we're in demand of. So when we're talking about a negotiation, are we expecting that the group that wronged us to present a number only for us to come back with something that is so far contrary? I saw numbers as high as 750 trillion as far as numbers that are owed to us. But another thing that I would like for us to keep into consideration is that as egregious of a crime as slavery was to us as a people here, we also need to keep in mind that slavery existed long before we got here. Slavery existed in many other parts of the world, in many different societies that didn't have anything to do with white people. So it's not a uniquely American situation with black people and white people as far as the slavery conversation is concerned. So when we're talking about reparations, I'll be frank and tell you, I have absolutely no faith in us receiving reparations in any way, shape, or form. And a large part of that is for the simple fact that we can't even get clear about what it is that we're asking for in terms of reparations. Are we looking for college education? Are we looking for reprieve from taxes? Are we looking for land? Are we looking for cash? What are we looking for? And if we can't get a collective agreement on that, then there's no possible way that we can expect to have any form of successful negotiation with the opposition. It is in their best interest for us to not have any form of agreed upon metrics for us to negotiate from. And for the gentleman here, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but for the gentleman here to say that, it's about the action when we're talking about a business negotiation, which is effectively what this will have to be. We have to start with something that's quantifiable. Otherwise, there's no way to move the conversation forward.
What do you guys think
So,
about that?
well, say I want to. The one I want to about the terms of slavery existing in other places. The reparations that we're demanding aren't about slavery. They're about the MAFA. The MAFA is a specific course of targeting of black people, of which slavery, chattel slavery, is one aspect. But it was a specific, intentional, directed, and targeted uh, series of actions, legislatively, extrajudicially, that was targeted against black people to destroy, to denigrate, to terrorize, to completely demolish us over hundreds
Globally.
of years. And
Globally.
so, like, it's the so that's why I keep saying the Mafa, because it's not about slavery, it's about the Mafa. The Mafa is a extends far beyond slavery and goes further, and even chattel slavery as it existed is different from a bunch of other forms of slavery.
So let
But
me
in
try to
terms of the
understand what you're saying. Are y'all saying that it's not necessarily about reparations?
no, I'm saying the Mafa. I'm saying the Mafa is the crime. That's the the crime that was committed. So Mafa deals with slavery. It deals with Jim Crow, black codes. It deals with the attacks on Black Wall Streets, the redlining, the segregation, even the way the mass incarceration. Because if you look at the way mass incarceration has been implemented, it was specifically black people have been specifically targeted. And just a
Right.
quick point of that, the 100-to-1 ratio, and this is one of the reasons why I despise Joe Biden with a passion, because the 100-to-1 ratio was created a ratio between crack and powder cocaine, where for 5 grams of crack, you got sentenced to the same amount of time as somebody got sentenced for 500 grams of powder cocaine. 5 grams was equal to 500 grams under the 100-to-1 law. And guess who was getting targeted? 91% of the people targeted under the crack law were black people. Like, this is not, none of this was accidental. None of this was just, oh, it's a coincidence. Like, this was specific targeting
So
of
what is
black
this?
people.
I mean, again, I'm still trying
The
to
Mafia is the African
understand.
Holocaust, the Black Holocaust.
I'm still trying
And
to
so,
understand. I'm gonna get my guy Logic in here, but I'm still trying to understand what are people asking for on an individual level, collectively. What is that? Look, what is that? I don't. I
well,
still.
well,
I'm
so
still.
I definitely think that there needs to be individual, like there should be no, oh, we're going to give to this organization, because we've seen that that's a bad idea. We've seen what BLM, like the BLM global initiative did. Like, you cannot just trust. You can't say, okay, we're going to write a $2 trillion check and give it to this group, and see what they do with it. So it would have to be individuals, like checks given to individuals. But one of the things you said about taxation, that's the no taxation. That's the that happens before reparations. Like, that happens because the simple fact is, if we're going with that we're owed reparations, we have already established they owe us. We damn sure don't owe them. So ending taxation on Black Americans is the first. It like happens. That's pre-reparations. Ending taxation on Black Americans is pre-reparations, because we damn sure don't owe them after the crimes they've committed against us. If you
So
want to talk about
may
a
I ask a
social
question?
contract, they violated the contract.
May I ask a question? So
Yes,
so that let's even that as a concept. Uh, how do we determine who qualifies? Because this is a big topic of the conversation. I don't
in
think we
California.
really get into it. But when we're talking about the number of immigrants from Africa, from the islands, from other parts of the world, from the UK, from hell, even from Canada, do they participate in this, or
Well,
is
see,
there a foolproof way for us to separate those of us that are ADOS versus those of us who are not? How do we do
Well,
that?
see, but that's one of the things. That's why the process is so essential, because we're seeing this in California, where those discussions are taking place. So that's why I say, when these town halls are taking place across the United States, everybody has to get involved. Everybody has to get up, show up, and say, okay, do they feel, because once we stipulate what the crimes have committed, okay, who was directly affected, and now who needs to be recompensed based on this basically this conspiracy that was committed against black people. And so that's definitely a question that's going to have to be asked. But, like, it's not going to be up to just one person. It's what the black community is going to have to decide, of this is how, who's going to be
Right.
eligible to receive
That's right.
reparations from the United States.
Let me get my dog Logic in here. What's going on, Logic?
And these dudes just like to talk. Hey, and y'all I ain't gonna call y'all. Look, y'all just like to talk, and like I said, the way I I see y'all conversation is going, or somebody asks a direct question, and then you start going, you talk about crack, you start talking about everything, and you don't answer the simple question. The simple question is, if you want to look at it, is it a blueprint out there that reparations been delivered?
Is there a what?
Is there an
Is it a
existing
blueprint?
blueprint?
Yes. Have
Yes.
reparations have been given to anybody?
Yes.
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 Okay. On what occasions? What's the last two occasions that received reparations?
The Germans received reparations from America that rebuilt Germany. The Japanese received reparations from their internment camps during the 1940s of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews. You ever heard of Israel?
Yes. You
Israel.
got three examples,
Yes.
right?
Israel has
Well,
been
hold on.
given
I want a
as
dialogue. So we got three examples, right? So we
yes, sir.
got three blueprints, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
So the Jews received what, $91 billion?
Plus
Uh,
8 billion, plus $8 billion a year since 1972,
okay.
approximately.
All right. So the Jews received $91 billion, right? Initially, right?
As a down
Japanese
payment.
received $1.8 billion, if I'm correct, right? So it's a blueprint, it's a foundation, but you got to realize the time frame in which that they crimes was committed against them. Small, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So if you want
Multiplied.
to be honest, Harvard just admitted to being part of the crime that was committed, correct?
Yes, sir.
So black people should be able to sue, right? Now, how would
Yeah.
you sue a person? Based off of what? They net worth, correct?
Yes, sir.
If I got $10, you can only sue me for, you know what I'm saying, probably within that $10 range, right? So now, how much is Harvard worth? So now 20% of what Harvard worth should go into a pot. And then now we'll fight about the ADO and FDOs, the Adidas, all them different niggas, right? You can do that later. But see, get to the conversation of the money. All these different organizations. It's an organization right here where I'm at. What's the hospital in Baltimore? Damn. Y'all smart brothers. Y'all got suits on and shit. What's the hospital in Baltimore? John
I don't
Hopkins
know. I've
University.
never been to be more.
Yeah.
All right. They also admitted that the infrastructure that they have now was built on the back of slaves. A lot of these major infrastructure that we see in America now was built on the back of slaves.
Yes.
So that's where the negotiations start, with all these infrastructures, these facilities. That's a lot of money. I say we start by this. 20% of their net worth should go to a pot. And now, for the next 50 years, black people should have free tuition to these institutions. I don't think it should be a lifetime. I think it should be a timeline. Because, I mean, if black people fumble the bag and don't do what the Jewish people did, then that's on us. But I think it should be given, but the conversation should be straightforward and we should deal with it. My second point I want to make about this Harvard shit, right? Is they giving you something in the form of donations, or they giving you some in the form of payments? They donate, right? If you read the article, they donate to this organization and this organization, right? And y'all business, man. What happened when you donate money?
Tax write-off.
You get tax write-off, right? What happened if you pay somebody?
Got pay
You got to
taxes.
pay taxes, right? See, we get played so easy, and I don't get it. And then we'll fight against each other, but the FBA, the FBI, the ADOS, all that bullshit, I don't care about that. Let's stick to the fact that their infrastructure is still exists today. It was built on the back of slaves. Let's deal with that. Let's identify all these companies that right now, if you look at the Forbes top 500, you'll be surprised how many organizations that exist that's in the Forbes. So deal with that. Find out who the victim is. You don't sit here and say, let me go negotiate who's going to get the money first. No, you figure out who you're going to sue. Figure out who you're going to sue first, and then we'll deal with the rest of that shit later when there's a big bag weighing on the niggas.
But see,
And they
that's why
give
the
us
brother.
this little shit like this, donate money to us, and guess what? The people who really gonna do something with it and never see it, because they'll fund it down to some welfare programs, some soup lines, some gyms. You know what I'm saying? Some goddamn. That's how they get us. They've been giving us. And you want to keep it focused. They've been giving us reparations for a long time, but it's been in form of what? Handouts. It's been a form, and it goes to who? The poor community. Wake the fuck up. That's all I got to say.
But see, that's
Yeah,
why
I
the
want to say
brother said
I
that we
appreciate.
have to. Can you hear me?
Now, Logic hit on a really good point, because I think one of the things that we don't talk about enough when we're having this conversation is the fact that when we're talking about reparations, we're talking about it coming from the United States governments, not the actual companies that benefited from it, not the banking institutions, not the companies that own large swaths of real estate. We are talking about the U.S. government as though it was a centralized entity that owned slaves, and they were not. They were not. That is a very important part of the conversation.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we have to look at it all. We have to look at the U.S. responsibility, identify organizations, but that's why, like, I think the education. So that's why I say that's why I like the process, and the process in terms of being fully educated on what happened and who did what, because we need to know that whether any bag ever gets provided, we need to know that. We need to know what happened in detail, who's responsible, and we need to, because what I see right now is, on a visceral level, a lot of us don't, like, it's disconnected. It's like something that we just hear about. It's not something we feel. So like when people, like, when you talk about it, people just think, oh, it's something that happened. Whereas, like, look at how people are reacting to Ukraine. To Ukraine, you've got people just like, oh, this is horrible. Like, they're actually getting emotional and feeling over it. Whereas when we're talking about the crimes that are committed against Black people, it's like, oh yeah, that something happened. No feeling, no emotion, no. Like, we need to feel it. Because, and I'm
Yeah,
not
but
saying white people need to feel it, but we need to feel it, because if we don't feel it, then that means it's not real to us. That means we're not acting accordingly. That means we're not moving the way we need to be moving. But logic. Let me tell you, I like what you said about determining what the bag is, what it's supposed to be, paying attention to the blueprints that exist already in terms of, okay, yeah, this is how we formulate a number. I absolutely appreciate all that stuff you said. Absolutely, 1,000%.
well,
But
I need to call this out, brother, because there's a false equivalence there when we're talking about
Okay.
something that's happening right now, like Ukraine, versus something that happened in the past. But all that aside, to the point, we still need to start with a number. We still need to start with what we're after, and then you can determine who's culpable for what percentage of it. If you're looking at a class action lawsuit against an entity, you first need to determine what it is that you're trying to get in terms of damages first, and then you can determine what the culpability is, and it gets negotiated from
No,
there.
I mean, you would have to first determine the crimes committed. You would have to actually
Yeah, you have to
dictate
look at
what the actions were committed
the
first.
extent of the
Yeah, that
damage.
comes first, because once you can stipulate, okay, this was done XYZ. Once you like, it's like they can't sentence somebody before they figure out what crimes they're charging them with. So like,
So you
we have to
but
enumerate.
hold up. Y'all confusing shit. Look, if you made a beat right now, I take that beat and I put my lyrics on top of it, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
essentially what it is. It's organizations that still making money and exist, that was built during this process. So like I said, fuck all the small talk. It should be a percentage. I don't want to see it say, I want to know how much Harvard is worth. Harvard alone, what, 70 bit? I don't know. However much
Yeah, I
it's
don't know.
worth,
Right.
right? I want a percentage of that. That's going in the pot. So like the small talk, and right now, and we just talking anyway. So like all the other shit, we dilute the Kool-Aid by sitting here Ukraine and all that kind of crazy shit like that. I'm just saying we just need to focus on us. And we need to focus on what happened. We need to look at it like everybody else will look at suing a person, suing a company, how much they worth weigh in on that. Because
No,
how
this
much
is
gonna
bigger.
show you
This is
how
bigger
much
than a
they,
lawsuit. This is bigger than a lawsuit.
But yeah,
bro,
so listen,
this nigga
Because
like
here.
I said, listen, no, I agree, Logic, where you're saying about determining, okay, yeah, what's the accountability, what's their net worth, and determining them. Listen, like I say, because and to piggyback on something that Anton said earlier about, like I don't profess to have all the answers, but like, and that's why because I know there are groups that are actually doing research and compiling numbers, and like, so when you come up with a system of determining numbers, I'm like, okay, I like what I'm hearing. Like, I could rock with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have some ideas. Like, and that's why I say, like, one of my ideas is, first things first, before we even go to them about, like, if we're talking about the government, like, we say, okay, yeah, this ain't gonna be taxes. So, but with in terms of Harvard, in terms of, yeah, you're not just gonna give a fund and donate money to somebody like BLM or something, and that has no benefit for the majority of Black people. Like, no, that's nonsense.
But have you read the article? That's that's
No,
that's essentially
that's what
what
they're
they
doing.
do. That's
That
essentially
is,
what
yeah.
they do. And then now they gonna write all that shit off and laughing
Exactly.
at you motherfuckers for clapping. They
No, I'm
write
not
it
clapping for Harvard.
for
I'm not
clapping.
clapping for Harvard. I'm not clapping for Harvard.
I'm not talking about you as an individual, man. Come on now, don't take it personal. Know what
No,
I'm
no, no.
saying?
I'm cool.
Laugh at us,
See,
but
Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand." And like the brother said, what we have to do is we have to do an idea that we hate to do. We have to come together amongst Black men, unite amongst ourselves,
you can
and
forget it.
have well, that's
brother, did you say Frederick Douglass?
yes, sir. Power
See,
concedes nothing without a demand.
this why we can never get along. You sit here, you quote a dead man, and then we constantly do it. Next, you gonna quote 50 Cent and Tupac? Nigga, who
Well,
are we?
have you? Last time I checked, churches quote Jesus, and he's been dead 2,000 years. A man's a man's wisdom outlives that man, and we can use a man's wisdom, whether it be 100 years old or 1,000 years old. If it has application today, then we apply it. So it's
If we quoted
Black unity.
dead people like Frederick Douglass in
Uh-huh.
2021, that show why we're in the position we're in now.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it do.
No, it doesn't. We're in a
Keep
position now because we didn't use his wisdom. So what we have to do is unite amongst ourselves, like we did in Tulsa 80 or 100 short years ago, like we did in Rosewood, like we used to do before 1970. We have to come back together regionally in our states and in our regions and put our minds together and come up with a demand on the U.S. government and all other responsible parties, both public and private. I practice contract law.
You probably did it. Did you go to a historical Black college?
No,
Oh, it seemed like to me.
no, sir.
All right, I'm out of here, man. I can't do the nigga shit. Look, hey, y'all had a nigga conversation. Y'all get here, talk about Rosewood, talk about all this different shit, and all y'all doing is y'all looking for ways to make excuses. That's why you niggas talk about Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman,
No,
all this
nobody's
shit.
made an excuse. Law is based on precedent, and those are precedents, brother.
And guess what I
Every court,
said?
every
And I
courtroom
said,
in America uses
find the
precedents.
guilty parties. I said, first came up, find the guilty parties, figure out how much they worth, and then now you got a calculated number. And all I tell you, I said, and I gave you a source. I guarantee you at least 50% of the Forbes 500 list all are guilty parties. And then when you can use the blueprint, you can sit here and say, if they gave the Jews $91 billion for that short span of time, now let's say, hey, look, that's the standard. Because what you do, if something been executed, you can take that, you can add it and make it into the dollar today.
Right.
And sit here and
Right.
say, okay, if they had a year like this, we was in this position for however many years, and add that shit up. Now you have
Right.
something that U.S. Listen, the U.S. was in on the Jews getting reparations for what happened to them.
Right.
So now, if that's the blueprint they took, we take it, we make it, we modernize it, we bring it to the day, and then we use
Right.
the same formula against them.
Right. You're
That's
absolutely
all.
right. Those
You start
those
talking about
those
God,
those
Jesus,
blueprints.
Moses, Frederick
No, 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 no,
Douglass,
no. Hold on. Those
Machiavelli,
blueprints.
Suge Knight,
Those
y'all kill a conversation.
those blueprints and templates that you referred to do exist. However, have you ever lost a loved one in a car wreck? Can you hear me?
No,
Okay.
haven't.
Well, there are people who lose loved ones in accidents. And yes, there's a dollar value that can be assigned to property. The word mortgage means something that's dead. A house is something that's dead, it has no living cells. But when you lose a loved one, then the value of that has to be calculated. And we have lost billions of people through murder and lynching, and that has to be factored into the equation. And you're leaving that part out. You're into the physical value. We have to go into the what our human cargo and our personal losses of person and spirit, and that has to be somehow and some way calculated and quantified. You can't just be limited to the physical. If somebody comes and kills your whole family up, your mother and your father and your sisters and your brothers, and then they try to slide you some $100,000 check, you're gonna look at them funny. You're gonna feel funny. So we have to calculate what was lost in humanity and in spirit. You're not taking that into consideration, brother.
No, I'm taking everything in consideration. And if you feel that deeply about it, what you want to do? Go to West Africa and sue them too?
All
What's the
responsible
question?
all responsible parties, brother.
But I'm
That's
just
why
when
we have to come together. We have to have.
see, you sit here and y'all take something, you got to get the ball rolling. And then
Yes,
now
sir.
you got all these individuals that admitted to this. This is
Yes,
where
sir.
you got to start. You got to
Right.
start with a guy that said, "Hey, I did this. I know I was a part of this. I know," and the ball get to rolling. And then now
Actually,
you start actually, you know what I'm saying? Get you a research team. You know what I'm saying? Look, y'all got it.
exactly.
Y'all win. I'm right. I'm finna take my dumb ass back to work. Hey, I love y'all. Salute. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Illogical is out of here. Hey, I'm gone. Y'all got it. Hey, tell me how to tell. I mean, I'm gonna pray for it tonight, brother, up here. What I can't see. I'm gonna pray for reparations. And as a matter of fact, I'm finna do like Jada Smith's daughter. I'm finna write a letter to Frederick Douglass too. Hey, thank you, brother.
Okay.
Peace out. Appreciate it for
Spirit
having me.
and spirit and ancestors of Frederick Douglass, brother.
And y'all want to listen to these spooky ass niggas. This the problem.
Well, it's better than listening to an ignorant nigga.
See, and that's how I know y'all can't come together anyway.
Yeah, man, that's you hit the
No, we
you
can.
caught it before I could. Man, look, here's the thing. Here's the thing that's very important because we get so emotional about this topic, that we really miss the ability to talk about tangible things. Like when we're talking about trying to quantify the amount that's already been lost, when we're trying to talk about the true number of people that have really been affected, we're talking about things that can never be tangibly quantified.
Aaron,
Because
Aaron, mute yourself, Aaron. Go ahead, Jared.
no, so I'm saying that those numbers that we're talking about can never tangibly be quantified. So we miss the good going for the perfect. And the fact of the matter is there's not going to be any scenario based on what we're asking for that's going to be perfect as far as this record keeping or accounting is concerned. It's not going to happen. So to the point of starting with the baseline, where do we get? I'm sure that the Jews could have said that their number of reparation needed to be 10 times higher than what it was based on the number of atrocities that they have experienced. We could say the same thing, but the fact of the matter is there is only so much that will be able to be retrieved, and it's based on what's able to be proven. In any case that we're talking about, because you mentioned that you practice contract law, my brother, when we're talking about the ability to prove damages, we have to be able to have recordable evidence that demonstrates the amount of the damages incurred. If we can't do that, if we're talking about abstract ideas such as spiritual loss and the true market value of the potential of who could have been with us but wasn't with us, like that gets into very idealized concepts that we can't put a tangible number to, and we miss out on the potential of getting anywhere because we're trying to capture the totality of something that cannot be truly quantified. That leaves us spinning our wheel on a treadmill. We're not moving anywhere.
But no,
I agree.
we reduce it. What we do is we work to reduce it down to a number based on precedent and what was paid before due to loss of life damages. We take that into full accountability, and
I
we look at what's been paid out.
I agree, but I think we're kind of selling ourselves short. We need to separate reparations into two categories. And I actually agree with what Logic was saying, but I think one of the things we need to also do is separate it into two categories. One, slavery and post-slavery, because there's two different atrocities committed by two different types of entities, right? So we got to understand that most white people weren't in America when slavery was here. Most white people came after slavery, so we got to understand
After
that.
you mean chattel slavery?
Whatever you want to call it, dude, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. No, it's not whatever I call it. It's whatever
After
it is.
after 1865, listen, I'm not getting caught in the semantics. Listen, after
It's not
this,
semantics. It's
hey, yo,
actual
hey,
law.
all right,
It's
whatever you want
actual.
to call
It's
it, dude.
law. It's law
Dude,
and
I don't care.
dates.
I don't care. I don't care. After
Nobody
1865,
cares if you don't care.
okay, after 1865 and before 1865, right? And I think slavery, chattel slavery, 1865, we can easily quantify that because what was going to be the deal for that? 40 acres and a meal, right? Cool. If you can prove that you were around for that time, or not even that, there could be a fund set up from the U.S. government because wait, hear me out, where first-time home buyers who are black get free housing. There you go.
Okay,
That
I
that's
hear.
that's the thing. That's property. Hear me out. That's property. There's the deals. These are deals. We got to make a deals. You can't get. Sometimes you might get what you want, but sometimes you might not. So that's one side. You get property for slavery, right? That was going to be the property in cash. The other side of it is a lot more complicated, and that's where most of the money comes from. And that is things like Jim Crow, the Black Laws, the FHA loans, the whole gambit that happened the 100 years and 150 years after that. That's more provable. There's track records for that. There's more accurate accounts for that for those things. Now there you can go and those most of those entities still exist that participated in those atrocities, right? For example, Bank of America and Wells Fargo just finished a lawsuit a few years ago, based off of discrimination for housing, right? So we can quantify those things more easily, and we can actually distribute the damages to the people to the parties more readily because we actually can trace that back. We have to separate those two things because they're two different entities, and there's two different problems. You can't conflate everything into one thing.
Well, you see, I appreciate us even having this conversation because that's what the process is going to look like. Because the process is going to look like with brothers like you saying, okay, this is what it should be, and then somebody else may say, oh, I
Right.
think it should need to be something else, and we actually make a decision, and then we formulate a plan, and
Right.
we bring it forward, and that's why I think this is an essential discussion, conversations that need to begin and continue, but like, and I know what some of the pushback is, but what's the solution, and what if happens if we don't get it? And I get that. That's why this isn't. I look at reparations, like I say, as a litmus test, and we need to have other things. We simultaneously we need to be working on fixing other things in the event that reparations never happen, and actually with the mindset, with the assumption that reparations will not happen, so that we can still take care of ourselves, still build the communities, still provide for the future
Right.
of our children and everything, and uplift ourselves and our communities. And then if that happens, okay, cool. Now we have a different relationship with these entities that were responsible
So
for
Right.
these atrocities.
Reparations.
To be honest with you,
Reparations will
we
be
won't get reparations. We won't get reparations until after we don't need it anymore. I'll be honest with
reparations
you.
will be this process. This process that
I'm
we're
honest.
talking
Right.
about.
Yeah.
The process of reparations that we're talking about. The brother said we have to have town hall meetings across the country. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be cooking up a soup. Somebody's going to bring a pot. Somebody else is going to bring the water. Somebody else, that brother over here is going to bring some tomatoes. This other brother's going to bring his onions. Another brother's going to bring some celery. Another brother's going to put some beef in there, and so on and so on and so forth.
But that's
But
not. But you know, that's not normally the process though. Like normally the process when
this
you
is
like
this
when
isn't
you
a normal
when you do
process.
no. But here, listen, we got to
Okay,
start
yes, sir.
somewhere.
Right.
So the normal process is you have a research team, right? You know
Yes,
that
sir.
town hall shit. That's not gonna work. You gotta have a reason because people as a whole are dumb. Their persons as individuals are smart. So you get a
Right.
smaller group of people to do research, right? Whatever now,
Right.
whether that takes 10 years, whatever, 15 years, you do the
No, we already
research,
have those.
right? So now you take that research and now you start with the legal case. You present a legal argument and then
Uh-huh.
you go through the courts. That's the
Right.
solution.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That
But the
this
town
is
hall shit not gonna work.
we're gonna
No, here's the problem.
if
No, I agree with having a research team, but the research, they're supposed to present the case to the people. That
right.
because here's the point. The
I gotta go,
like
y'all.
it's all right, but it's irresponsible to put a small group of people in charge of deciding reparations for Black America. That's
No,
a disaster.
I
No,
didn't
I mean,
say this. I didn't say determine. Wait. The research team isn't to determine who gets what. The research team is to determine what happened. So you can and make a
even
proper
that,
legal
even
and
that,
make a
even
proper
that, we have
vote.
to be
You have
careful
to.
of. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because if we look at the level of co-opted individuals and organizations that exist out there, like that, BLM is just one. It's just one of the latest examples of their prominent. Their faces are out there, and then all these people say, "Oh yes, we're going to donate money to BLM," and then they're buying $6 million mansions
But
and
who's
like, oh,
wait. First of all, number one, you have to understand this. Entities. The problem with BLM and those other different groups, right? We have somebody who's sitting on their couch one day and say, "I'm gonna start a movement," and then y'all believe what they got to say, and y'all give them money. That's dumb. We gotta sit there and say, "Hey, this is a proven. This person has a proven professional. Person has a track record of doing X, Y, and Z. And we could trust the research that they have done, right?
you see,
We can't sit there
even if the
like,
knowledge,
wait,
the
hold up.
knowledge doesn't mean that
Did
they're working
anybody?
in the interest of the people. Because like
Wait, hold
right
up.
now, there's very smart people,
You can't
like,
trust anybody. You can't trust
huh?
anybody.
But
Then you can't
that's
trust
why it's
anybody.
up to the people. That's why it's up to the people to
No.
make the decision. Yes.
If it's up to the people, you leave it to the people, you'll never get anything done. You
No, we
won't.
have both. We have both. We
Listen,
have
I
leaders.
that's I think that's
We
the
bring together leaders, and we bring together people to police the leaders so that we come up with an enlightened, intelligent consensus. And we sit in a room and we hammer this stuff out. Uh,
No, that's
the
not gonna get
brother
anything
said
done.
okay. Listen, but let's
it
say
it
you're
gets
right.
it done all the time. It's called focus groups.
The
Brother
focus.
Anton
Well,
got it.
no. We're
Brother
not talking about
Anton
focus
got it.
groups. I'm talking about
Brother
focus
brother
groups. We're
brother
not talking about
Anton
focus groups.
brother Anton made it work today by bringing us together. We sitting in here talking now, so it can
Right.
and it happens all the time.
So
And so
wait, hold up.
we
So let's clarify this.
yes sir.
Let's clarify this, my brother.
Okay,
Let me
okay,
clarify this, my brother. So what I'm
right,
talking about is a focus group. What you're talking about
right.
in terms of getting people together and getting like trying to get
No, I'm talking
everybody
about focus
buy-in,
groups. I'm
town
talking about
hall.
focus
That's
groups.
not a
I'm
focus
talking
group.
about focus groups.
Okay, so we're on the same page
With
with that. Cool.
right. The town halls I'm talking about are based upon the work of the focus group, so that see, racism is not a feeling. Racism is not an emotion. Racism is a system, and the only
Okay.
way you can defeat a system is with another system. And so, yes, we're speaking the same thing, brother. I want a focus group too. And then the focus group disseminates to the people, and the people that want to add to and join on and enhance the focus group come. I'm not
No,
talking about the
no,
riffraff, brother.
no.
No,
I don't need anybody else. No, that's
but
like
see,
that
this is the
first
point.
part I agree with you.
If
Second part I don't agree with you. At the people, the group needs to be the group. Now they need to be held accountable by somebody. I agree with you.
Right.
But in terms of like getting other people to come in after it's too messy, and we don't
No,
get
I
you
didn't.
end up not getting
I
anything
said
done.
when I said come in, I meant come in to add suggestions. I didn't say come in. I don't mean come in and become a part of necessarily, but
Okay,
to add suggestions and comments and concerns,
okay,
not
and then
be part of the group, brother.
but you know how I think though. Once we
Not
come
what
up
I
out of
think. I think what you're saying is don't water down the group. No, I don't want the group watered down, brother.
okay, and
I don't
that's
want the
fine.
focus group watered down.
Fine, that's fine. But I think I'll approach it a little bit differently. I'll approach it as we get a focus group. They come up with their suggestions, right? So we got people who've already
Right.
done their research, and those entities that came up with their research and came up with the number, they need to present that case in court and do a legal process.
Right. To the
And
world
let's
court.
say let's say we're saying right now it's and I think it could be the UN. It's because it's hard to sue the US in the US, right? So maybe the
Right.
UN, maybe some
World
kind of
court.
international
The
committee.
world court, brother.
Sure, we can do that. And I mean, and this is actually something that
This
the
is a
boys are
crime
trying to do.
against. This is under the crime of under crimes against humanity.
Right, and this is something that the boys actually did in the
Right.
40s, but they were going to label him a communist, so he stopped doing it. And then after that, ironically, Cold War, they took advantage of that, and that's when we started getting on civil rights because it was a cold because civil rights actually was a Cold War tactic. Um, but however, back to what I was saying, you take that, you win whatever the lawsuit you get, whatever that comes in, you might let's say we say $10 trillion, right? Give it out a number, right? We get our ten,
Yeah.
and let's say that we came up with $10 trillion, we might end up settling for 5 or 3 trillion.
Right. Right.
But but the thing about it is we don't get you're never gonna get the number you asked for, but you're gonna get something
Right.
versus us sitting there arguing in circles. That's not gonna make sense.
No. No. The purpose of the focus group is to
Come up with a number.
move the process forward at all times.
The purpose of a focus group is to come up with a number and then bring that to a legal standard.
Right. Move the process
Oh
forward. Yes, sir.
no, okay, I did something I wasn't supposed to do. A legal standard.
Right. But see again, the root word of reparations is not money, it's not land, it's to repair. And the damage we have psychological damage and psychological trauma that we need to attempt to repair, that's manifesting in the form of today 33% of black males are in prison under court care, 60% unemployed, underemployed, 60% of our brothers are alcohol or drug addicted, 10-20% of our brothers are gay, 10% marry a white woman. We're completely destroyed as a people because of the system of racism that has been executed for the past 500 years. And so This reparation, this repair has to be done to both mind, body, soul, and spirit. It has to include training. It has to include land, and it cannot be limited to money because the value of the dollar is quickly crashing. We in the 60s, it was put forth that we need 13 to 16 states of our own that are minerally and fertilely rich with an outlet to the sea.
But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I mean, you could try for that, but I just think we should take basic concepts. What are the things that are some of the things that we were left out of, right? For example, we weren't allowed. We want to go back to let's start post slavery. If we want to go after we didn't get a chance to participate in the Homestead Act. We didn't get a
You know
chance to
what? Yes,
participate in we didn't get a chance to
land
participate in FHAs.
and the
We
Land
are
Reform Act,
yeah, like we can start with that.
right?
Those are more tangible things. There's so much land that's out there that's undeveloped that they can or that is developed that's government owned that can be given to that can be distributed to the parties that are been victimized, right? So
Yes.
there that's a way you could start, right? And that doesn't destroy the whole that's something that somebody can say, you know what? We've been sitting on this 5 million acres of land that we haven't done anything with. We'll give them that land to be able to be used, right?
Can I
That's something
chime
that's
in real
tangible.
quick?
And wait,
Aren't
just
there
one more thing,
already?
just one more thing, just one more thing. And
Okay.
then if you proceed with something that's more tangible, that's something that somebody can give up without necessarily destroying themselves, because people aren't necessarily gonna be willing to give up something that's going to destroy themselves, especially if you're dealing with a party who's as powerful as a government or a Fortune 500 company.
But like
You get
was
what I'm saying?
said, we don't want to don't give we don't want raw land. We don't deserve raw land. We're not gonna fell the trees and develop the land. We don't deserve that. We deserve that which was already developed because we have built America from the 1555, from the first time the slave ship called Jesus, captained by Sir John Hawkins in 1555, landed on the shores of America, all the way up to now is a little short of 500 years. So we deserve we people need to get out of the cities and let us have it, because we've built America from the time that she made her official corporate existence in 1776. From 1776 to now, those 200 years, we've built her from a wasteland to the number one superpower in America. And we deserve, since we developed this country, we deserve developed land as a direct result.
I can partially agree with that.
Is that like being partially pregnant?
I want to
I
get
can
y'all
partially
final.
agree with it.
I want to get y'all final thoughts
Okay.
and close this out. I wanted to let y'all talk through this without me piloting it, because again, I want to see what solutions based conversations look like. Me personally, I don't think anything was accomplished. I don't think that I don't believe that reparations are coming for everybody else. I'm gonna be honest with you, and this might sound a little crazy. Listen, if they offered me a reparations check, I wouldn't even take it. Not only would I not take it, I also believe that however much further ahead that the majority of the people that get the checks are going to be when they start off, I think I'm going to surpass them in a short amount of time. Because I think that it's the mentality that we have that's keeping us back, not the opportunities at all. I think that we embrace, and it's going to sound controversial, but I don't really care. I think that we embrace and we spend more time complaining and operating in this duress victim mindset than we do actually building and doing things that's going to benefit us long term. And
And
I don't see it. I don't see it. I can't imagine it. It doesn't make sense to me. And I've completely divested myself from that mentality, which, in my opinion, has helped propel me to be successful and take responsibility and ownership of what I do versus looking at what people did yesteryear and trying to benefit off of that. I don't think I deserve anything that anybody did before me. I think that I need to stand on my own too. And the legacy that I'll leave will be largely based off of what I did and not what somebody gave to me. I'm
Well,
not
that's true.
I'm not
We're
interested
we're
in it at all. So
we're
I mean,
still
and that's just my personal opinion. I'm not telling anybody else that they need to think that way or they need to believe the way that I believe. But in observation, I don't see any progress. I mean, I didn't even see a number that anybody named,
I
and
named a couple of numbers.
and I think that people are doing themselves a disservice spending time trying to force other people that didn't even have anything to do with what you guys had, whatever plight that you think that you're in. They're wasting time instead of spending their time actually doing something, building something, and creating a real legacy for themselves by leaving this earth in a better space had they not been here. But that's just my opinion. So, uh,
But
y'all final
I think if we
thoughts?
well, go ahead.
Well, I
Y'all been
think
on.
in terms of like the victim mindset, I find interesting that term victim mindset, because I don't see that term applied to anybody else when they're talking about accountability. When they're talking about accountability for stuff that was done wrong to them, when white conservatives are complaining about CRT, they're not nobody's calling them victim playing victimhood,
But you know what
despite the
the
fact that
interesting
they are.
thing about that though is
But white
the whole
conservatives be the
white
same ones that
conservative
call us the
argument.
victim.
The very thing that's keeping you back, keeping you held back, is the black liberal mindset.
I'm not a liberal though.
No, 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 not
But even
you
the black liberal, but
specifically.
even the
Not
black
you
liberal mindset.
specifically.
But here's the thing,
But what's
because white
keeping
conservatives.
black people back is this black liberal mindset that forces them in it. Well, go ahead. I'm
But
sorry. I
listen,
didn't mean to
because
interrupt.
listen, white conservatives, Republicans aren't even showing up in black areas. They're literally saying, oh, it's a black area. We're not even gonna campaign there. We're not even gonna put resources there. Like there's a bunch of Republicans. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sonny Johnson. I'm not sure if you ever like if you've heard of people like that who would talk about how they've gone to the Republican Party, said, listen, we have black people who want help, who want to do this. They want an option. They want an alternative. And the Republican Party is just like, no, that's a black area. We're not going to put any resources there. We're not going to run any candidates there. We're not going to put any attention in there. And so, yes, the liberal establishment is not doing the black community any favors, but that's why what I'm talking about is black independence. I'm like, screw the Republicans, screw the Democrats. We need to be fighting for ourselves. That's it. It's black independence. We need to divest from both of the parties and just start working on building ourselves, not being dependent on government for anything. Like this is what we need to be working towards. And like I said, reparations, it's a demand, not for something we need, but something that's owed. It's a principle, and we need to be in a better position, regardless of whether that debt is ever paid. We need to be making that demand, because all that does is stipulate what our relationship is going to be with those parties going forward.
Any other final thoughts?
Um, so I think two things can be true at the same time. I think there is a personal accountability that needs to be held in terms of like your current actions today. But at the same time that we have to look at and see what created the environment in which you were born into, right? Because that affects a lot of things in going forward in terms of how you live and how and why. There's a reason why, for example, there's a wealth gap between network between blacks, whites, and other communities, and that's not just because black people were just squandering money, right? Like a lot of the times when we try to build things up, like even the Chinatown model, or like the way the different immigrants move in, and the way the different ethnic groups have their own communities. That was a model that we originally had. That's when we built like things like Black Wall Street, or we built Wilmington, Delaware, or we built Wilmington, Virginia, and we had these
Right.
and Wellswood and all these different communities, right? We had that
Right.
model at first, but imagine how far we would be if we had that model and we weren't burnt down to the ground by state entities, not just random people, by state entities.
Right.
We weren't burnt
Right.
down to the ground if we were allowed to just let be, and thrive and form those communities on our own, right? So that has to be taken into account of where we could be if we were just left alone. No other group
Right.
has experienced. So I just want us to take into account that it's not just slavery. It's the real impact is really the 150 years after slavery. What happened in those times? We need to really take that
Right.
into account.
And see, Brother Anton, you cannot say nothing good came out of today, because you never know what young brother has been listening to this show, what young sister has been touched by this show, what young brothers and sisters have been affected by black men coming together and talking. Proverbs 27:17, God says, just as steel sharpens steel, man sharpens man. Each one teach one so that each one can reach one. And we have lost our women. Our women look like circus clowns with different cotton candy colored hair, wigs and weaves, orange, green. Their hair looks like a crayon box. Their eyelashes
That's all women,
look
actually.
they look like the majority of them. They look like Big Bird or a circus clown, and they have fake breasts. They have fake stomachs. They have fake booties. They have
That's just weird.
fake nails, but they say they want a real man. Their whole body is a lie, and then they wonder why a man lies to them. We've lost our children. Our children, if you're over 25, they call you old school. If you're over 25, they call you old school. They don't want to listen to you, and they want to kill each other and be on first 48. So reparations, the one of the greatest ideas of reparations is God God has blessed us with the ability to repair ourselves. If we don't get a dollar from white people, we could pool our money and pool our resources and rebuild ourselves and our community if we wanted to, if we so chose to do so. But the time has come, because we're facing extinction
Where do you keep getting this extinction thing from?
from my eyeballs.
Huh?
The black community is a ghetto. We're wiping ourselves out. You said yourself, you seen the TV show First 48. We kill each other. First 48 means we kill each other so much that the white man brings his camera to use it for entertainment.
The white man brought his camera?
I
Majority of
don't
people on First Serve 48 are white, right?
I don't I don't think Bill Cosby was able to buy NBC, so it's not us. No, sir. So our our lives are at risk. Our divorce rate. Anger Man said 95%. Some people say it's 75%, but Anger Man said that 95% of black kids are born to single moms. We have a single mom epidemic, which comes from black females hating their man. The number one cause of death for blacks between the ages of 26 and 42 is not drugs, it's not hypertension, it's not heart attacks. The number one cause of death for blacks between the ages of 26 and 42 is a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We're killing each other.
What?
Yes. So we have to come together.
How does
You
that
you
make
can't.
sense? Wait a minute, wait a minute. Listen, it's a lot of things that you said that I didn't agree with, but I just let it roll. You
Uh-huh.
said majority of deaths is from boyfriend and girlfriends?
Yes, sir.
How?
Um, guns, knives.
So girlfriends
Um,
and boyfriends are killing each other?
that's new news to you, brother?
You saying the majority of deaths in the black community is boyfriends and girlfriends are killing each other?
Yes.
That's no.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Where did you find
What?
that statistic?
Yes.
Where did you find that
Yes.
statistic?
Oh my god!
Yes. Yes.
Based off what
Yes.
statistic?
Where'd you get that statistic from?
Just doing research, brother.
Like what?
But
Can you
we
name
Can
a
you
source?
cite your sources so I can substantiate that? Because
cite
we
a
got to be
source. I mean,
responsible for
this is
what we.
something that's a nugget of wisdom I came across 4 or 5 okay. From 19 let's go with this one. From 1973 till now, black females have had 12,500 abortions a day. That's
No,
a
no, no.
hundred
You're
and
not.
that's
We're not gonna get
150
past.
million.
Wait, wait,
That's a
wait, wait,
hundred.
wait, wait.
That's
No, 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 no. Hold on, hold on,
We're
hold
not
that's
gonna get past what you just said
150
before.
million. That's 104. That's 150 million black babies chopped up in
Wait,
his
wait, wait,
mother's
wait, wait, wait.
womb.
Hold on, hold on. We talking about okay. So for all intents and purposes, we gotta use. We can't. We gotta stay away from the A word. The
Oh
platform
yes,
is
sir. Yes,
black.
sir.
No,
Yes,
no.
sir. You're right. You're right. I
Um,
apologize.
when we talking about like people that are existing that's already born, right? Let's assume that. What's the
Okay.
number one way in which people are destroying each other?
I just mentioned it. For blacks, self murder from self hatred.
No, you
Okay.
said
So
partner.
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I just need to
so
get y'all final points.
these
Yeah, that's
conversations
why.
these conversations are key. They're vital. They're critical. So brother Anton, you can't say nothing good has come out of this.
I
If
don't think
nothing
so.
else, huh?
I said I don't believe so. As if anything, this was a micro.
If nothing else, we've met each other and interacted with each other. But
Yeah, that's cool.
much
I'm talking about as far as a conversation related to slavery and racism and colorism and all of that. Um, I see more divide than there has ever been personally, and um, I don't know. I'm a solutions based person. I'm a results based person, and so I lean towards the only thing I care about is the results. I don't care about anything else.
me
But
too.
results.
Me
But
Sometimes,
too.
I don't see
Anton,
anything.
but if you're a solution, you know that sometimes when sometimes in order to fix something, you gotta take it all apart. You gotta make it a mess, and then put it back together. And so this point, hey, us being divided sometimes might be a better thing in the long run than it is
Right.
in order to come up with a solution. Maybe.
Right.
I'm not saying
I
it is
mean,
or
like
it's
for
not.
example, I don't even know how we got to women. Like we wasn't even talking about women.
Hey, I don't know. That was wild. But I
Because
I don't
think
know how
I,
we
I
got to
think
every
women. Like I don't
everything
know what women
because
got to do with it.
everything in life, everything in business is based on relationships. A mother, Tupac said it best. We got
Tupac,
we came from a woman,
Pac.
got our got a name from a
Oh,
woman,
nah,
and
don't
we
do the Pac
and
quoting lyrics.
we
Oh,
got our game from a woman.
oh no.
So we can't talk about black man without bringing a black woman.
Oh, all right. Well, it's my time for today, folks. It's been a great show. I appreciate you,
Thanks for having me.
gentlemen, for jumping on the panel.
and now I know
Thank you.
why you want to be anonymous.
I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, fellas.
I have a blessed day, man.
All right, Aaron. Woo! Make sure y'all join the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as Thomas. I gotta shut it down, big dog. I got it's too. Listen, this one drained me. Maybe we'll continue some form of a conversation on a late night stream tonight or whatever. But oh Jesus, is this what it's come to? Honestly, is this what it's come to, y'all? Oh, y'all, we don't all have to do anything. If you are looking for a group of people that's going in the direction that you want to go in, make sure you join the Patreon. We got a live meetup in Vegas, in the white man city of Vegas on May 14th. We're going to use the white man's platform to join the Patreon. That link is in the description. And I'm going to continue to stream on this white man's YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Jesus. Yo. Oh. I left more. I was looking for insight, and I left more confused than I ever been. At least I got that Teach pack. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Subscribe to the channel. Hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. You need personal coaching. You know how to get in touch with me. I'm out, man. Peace.